It is August 5th, and you are here watching SkepTalk with me and John Gleason. Did I say that right, sir?
Yes, that's right.
I've always called you by your channel name. I don't think I've ever addressed you by your name before.
Either John Gleason, Goddess Engineer, either one works for me.
Yeah, I have a tendency to address people by the name they choose. It's just a funny thing with me. I know that's a minor point of courtesy that a lot of other people can't seem to manage. All right, so what's new and groovy in your life?
Nothing much. My wife and I were actually doing a podcast on a new channel that we started called Politics Deconstructed, where we're actually deconstructing Project 2025. And
outstanding.
Yeah, and so we've been going through that, and there's a lot of scary stuff in there. Apparently, they want to refocus the U.S. military away from what they're calling woke like targets or whatever, not targets, but like woke policies and stuff. And then they're wanting to refocus the U.S. military to be more about war fighting, but they also want to take on the Chinese Communist government.
Yeah,
and
while warning us that Biden will get us into a war. That Biden and Harris are the ones going to get us into a war. Yeah, that's of course. Yeah.
So we've been doing that. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we've been doing that.
Have you read that whole?
Not the whole thing. Not yet. My wife, she's been working through it like about 3 pages or so a day, and she's just going through it completely and highlighting all the important aspects of it. And like, they have like really weird ideas about what they want to do with a bunch of stuff. Like, for instance, they want to completely, like, not completely take out, but pretty much take the bite out of any kind of scientific like advisory boards or advisory input on a bunch of committees. So essentially, if the conservatives want to push through something that's bad for the environment or just scientifically is going to cause problems, they don't want the scientists, the experts, to prevent them from doing the bad thing. And so they pretty much just are wanting to remove the ability of them to stop bad ideas from propagating.
Stop! We're not going to let you stop us doing bad things. It's really great at being villains who somehow don't know that they're villains. I mean, there's some movies, and I get that the greatest villain is one who doesn't realize that he is the villain. But I mean, come on. This guy's got to know, right? Hey, what's our mission? Fuck over everything, ruin everything for everybody. That's what we're doing. That's what we're all about. Take away people's rights. Rights they enjoy today, they won't have tomorrow. Fuck them. I got mine. Fuck all y'all. Yeah, that is apparently their position. By the way, anybody wondering what I'm drinking Black Tuesday by the brewery, 19.5% ABV.
Oh, 19.5. That beats out mine. Mine's a Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA. It's a hazy Imperial IPA, and it's 9.5% alcohol.
Okay. Yeah, this will be the only beer I have this evening. I seem to have run out.
Oh.
I forgot to go to the store before the show. All right, so let me take a look. See if we've got any callers in. I think we had a couple lined up. We have 2 atheists. So let me bring one in, and we're talking with Mario. Mario, can you hear us?
Yeah, hey.
Hey.
What's up, Mario?
Hey. I have to say that I have autism just because it's relevant whenever I'm speaking, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
Well, I called in to talk about my my own spin on what I'm calling Gnostic atheism.
Okay.
All right.
So by Gnostic, I mean it's influenced by the Gnostics in that they had this character called the Demiurge that they said created the material world, and
Atheists.
like he's the bad guy.
These are atheists
He was
who believe that a demiurge created the universe.
no,
No.
yeah, wait, no, the Gnostics weren't atheists.
Okay.
Obviously. And,
Well, you
I'm making
said you were
a
talking about
form.
Gnostic atheism that was based on. That was okay. Never mind. Go ahead.
I'm making a distinction between form and content. I'm
Okay.
so like, you know, religious people they've always been wrong about, you know, a lot of stuff, but like there are certain things they've noticed about their own experience, and I think we can learn from those things. But we just have to translate it into, you know, real stuff. You know, because
Okay.
we have to, like, there are real explanations for all these experiences that people have. So,
all right. I'm not exactly sure what could you formulate what you're trying to ask, like in a question?
okay. Well, what I've noticed is that there's a difference between the natural world and the quote unquote real world of social constructs. Everything we call real is like a lot of it is I say that it's real because it's made up, like our institutions, for example, like the office of President of the United States, like that's only real because it's made up. So
You mean like it's a human construct? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Like humans created it, so therefore it's a human construct. Like it would not exist unless we created it, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right. And it's also a social construct in that it exists within, like, the United States, for example, is a landmass with like an imaginary line around it that we call a border.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, sorry. So all our stories come from our subconscious, and that includes like the Garden of Eden story. And I feel like it was very insightful of the Gnostics to recognize that the God character in that story is the bad guy. Now, like everything else they talked about, you know, you can throw that away or whatever. But if you look at the real world, you'll see that, you know, if you look at it anthropologically, up until about 10,000 years ago, people were living like Adam and Eve, basically. And then, so, I'm not the only one who said this. Like, Christopher Ryan, for example, is sort of an anthropologist, and he has said that the God character in the Garden of Eden story is basically a reimagining of the first guy who, you know, kicked us out or enslaved humans and, to till his fields. And
Mario, maybe you can explain something. Like, I don't know how to conceptualize how Adam and Eve would have lived. Like, do you mean like?
And I don't know of any human society that ever lived like they did, or like the story says that they did.
I'm just identifying, like, like there was a scientific Adam and a scientific Eve. They would have been foragers.
I assume you're talking about mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome Adam.
Yes.
Who lived separately
yes,
in large communities of people, of thousands of people.
Yeah, and weren't they like tens of thousands of years apart? Like like temporarily? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mario, maybe we can. I get that maybe all this exposition maybe is needed in some kind of sense, but is there any way that we can maybe get to a question?
Well, it wasn't really a question. The point I was trying to make was that the patriarchy is the bad guy, basically. I'm sorry it took me this long to get to that point. But
what if you just said that sentence at the beginning?
I mean, I feel like both. I
was trying to, but I didn't. I don't know how to prioritize things because I have autism.
Okay, no, that's fine, I guess. But I guess my point is just that I think that Aron and I are going to agree that like patriarchy, like patriarchal systems, are generally like bad. But by several different measures. So I don't think that you're going to get any kind of disagreement with us about that. Maybe. So I guess did you just call in so that you could run your idea past us and get our input on it, or like I guess I'm just trying to figure out.
I guess I didn't. I'm not sure because I wasn't sure if this show had a specific point, or if it was just call in.
The feeling is mutual.
Yeah. So I mean, we understand. Honestly, I couldn't really follow a lot of the talking about the Gnostic stuff, and then transforming the conversation over to the living like Adam and Eve, and how all of that matters as far as to get to patriarchy is bad. But
well, the butterfly and the caterpillar can both get to every point on the tree. They just have different ways of getting there.
Well, and that's fascinating, but I am so befuddled by finding out things are real only because they're made up, and other such comments that I don't know where to go with this. I'm ready to say, well, thank you for calling. Isn't that interesting? And then take on the next topic.
Well, I had fun.
All right. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome.
All right. So we got one more. Let me see. We have a theist. Yay! Okay. So, no, we don't. Yep. We do. Okay. There we go. We've got a couple of them. Good deal. All right. So I'm going to start with, where are they? Matt. Can you hear us, Matt?
Hey, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
we got you,
good.
Matt.
Fantastic. Well, how's it going? I was calling. I called in yesterday, I believe, with Aron on the show, and he gave me a really good answer about just logic in terms, like what he would like to study in terms of philosophy. I don't know if you remember that, but I was calling in again just to see what your opinions would be on a morally righteous person, and what would that constitute?
A morally righteous person, probably one that isn't so damn judgmental.
Okay.
Well, so I actually put out a video on the morality argument today on my channel, and as far as being morally righteous, I think that we would need to kind of define what you mean by being righteous, because I get what you mean by being morally righteous. I typically, how I ground my moral foundation is in both empathy and humanism. So, like, I'm very empathetic to people in my community, in my society, and then, humanism as far as like a worldview goes. Like, I definitely prioritize the health and well-being of, people, I guess, in my society and everything like that. So, like, I feel like anything that prioritizes or uses that uses both of those things, I think is going to make you, I guess, morally righteous. I feel like a lot of these topics concerning the moral argument is going to be very like subjective, even from a theistic or any certain religious point of view. I think it's very subjective, and so we would need to like actually examine certain situations that would come up. I think that it's like a case by case basis, like as far as what's the morally righteous sort of decision on something.
Okay, that makes sense. I've just been taking a few notes just so I can get a general idea and come back to it. So, Aron, you were saying, in your eyes, a morally righteous person would start with something non-judgmental, you would say. Would that be correct?
Not quite so judgmental, no.
Okay.
I mean, the God of the Bible is not a righteous judge by any stretch. He punishes people for not knowing right from wrong, for the crime of finding out right from wrong. So they can't even be held accountable, and it's his fault. So he's not in a position that he can punish them. So he's entirely a villain in his own story.
I can see that.
All the way through Go ahead.
Continue.
No. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I can see what you're saying, and I really understand it. Like it makes sense. Like it fits like a puzzle piece. But there is just something that's hanging on, like some semblance of maybe wanting to believe, right? And I don't necessarily know how to honestly phrase it. But I'm trying to really really wanting to believe would be the best way of phrasing it.
I would have to say so. Yes. I mean, I believed in God because all the people I trusted told me there was a God. And I didn't know yet that I shouldn't trust these people who don't know what they're talking about. You know, they always said that God is a conclusively proven scientific fact, and questioning whether a God exists was as crazy as questioning whether we really had a president. You know, you can't prove that we have a president, so, you know, not absolutely. Okay, fine.
I mean, I don't want to go as far as to say, you know, God is real, because quite frankly, you know, I don't know. And I think that a lot of the arguments that you guys, I've been watching the show for quite a while. I mean, really since I'm quite a bit older, but really since I was like 15. The atheist experience was what I started on with Matt Dillahunty. And it's, you know, I see all the points, but maybe it is just a want to believe rather than the reason to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I didn't have a desire to believe. I believed because I trusted what I was told. For me, the desire is I don't want to be fooled into believing things that are not true. It's always maddening to me the many times that I found out that I had been lied to, that I believed something that had turned out to be false, that I believed someone who didn't know what they were talking about. Yeah, that's quite irritating. And one of the first things that I had to let go of was hell. I want to say I was 13 when I abandoned belief in hell, because there's
what
just
got you there? Like, what was the? Was there like? Was it gradual?
Well, I mean, hell is inconsistent with God. I mean, there's no way God would not create a place to mercilessly, savagely, vindictively torture you to the most extreme sense possible forever and ever and ever, and ruthlessly keep you alive to continue torturing you. This is not something a God would do. This is something a person would do when they're trying to sell you a bullshit story and you ain't buying it. If heaven didn't convince you, because look what happens with heaven. I mean, how many times you can tell somebody that, well, the streets are made of gold and we'll all live in mansions. I mean, the first thing you're going to ask is, well, gold doesn't have a lot of traction, and so I wouldn't want to be on that street. And why would we be in mansions? Why would we need shelter in heaven? It takes a couple of minutes to realize that heaven isn't so great a promise. And then when you start thinking about eternity, and that there's no way to end eternity, there's no way to get out of it. There's no way to say, I'm bored, I'm tired, I want to off it now. No, there's no getting out of this. You're stuck. You are trapped in the house with little Anthony Fremont for all of eternity, and you better be thinking nice thoughts. So there's that. So people started questioning heaven and realizing that heaven isn't a great thing. So they came up with hell. And it doesn't matter how long you think about hell continues to suck. It's
true.
Think about it as much as you want. Hell continues to suck, except when we have to consider that the evangelicals are all in heaven. And then we start thinking, as Mark Twain said, we start thinking as Mark Twain did, heaven for the climate, hell for the company.
Yeah, no joke. At least they have some banging music, right? Man, that's a realization that I've just come to tonight, and I really appreciate both of your inputs. It's maybe it's the fact that I want to rather than I really do believe. Maybe it's just I'm holding on to the want. And
well, I was actually going to ask you, Matt, what do you constitute as a morally righteous person?
I discussed this with a friend of mine a little bit, and he asked me the same question: what do I consider to be morally righteous? What are the qualities that I would attribute to that? And honestly, I'm going to give you the biggest cop-out answer in the world. I don't know. That's why I'm asking other people.
I think that's a good response to have. I mean, it shows that you're really carefully considering your position and everything like that. I know that a lot of theists out there, especially if they grew up Christian or they are Christian, like they pretty much just appeal to like what God says in the Bible or what they think or what's been presented to them. That God has said in the Bible, or that certain moral statements are the pinnacle, of being a morally good person, and following that is blindly at times. Following that is what it means to be morally righteous. So I wasn't sure, like, where you landed on that. Like,
I see where you're going with that. And I wouldn't. I think morality and being a morally righteous person, I could say that the most I've been able to hammer down, and this might not seem like much to a lot of people, because a lot of people here are probably very used to thinking and going through these logical arguments in their head. I'm not. So the conclusion that I came to is it has to do with one's actions at the very least. It actions and behavior correlate, right? Or actions and what you believe, right? And that's about as far as I've gotten with it. I've been trying to just go over it in my head, kind of be introspective about it. And it's a very tough. I just read Meno by Plato, and I thought maybe that's a good place to go for some type of answer. And it's like, no, it just made everything else just jumbled, all hell.
Well, so I don't know if this would help, but I know that I went into therapy, as an adult and everything. And one thing that my therapist said to me that really kind of stuck with me concerning like how my parents treated me and the experiences I had growing up was like, you're a father yourself. What would you think of somebody that treated you the way that your parents treated you? Like, what do you think that that's like? Would you treat your son that way? Would you do those kinds of things, to your son? And I try to reframe a lot of these moral decisions in that light, like, not necessarily as a father, but just as a human being myself. Like, what would I ever consider, like, for instance, in Numbers 31 in the Bible, would I ever consider, sending a whole bunch of people to another town so that they can kill all of the fighting men and women and everything like that, that are not virgins, and then even the small babies and little boys, and then take all the virgin girls? Like, could I ever command people to do that, or would I ever want to go and do that? And I sort of reframe it in that kind of aspect, and I'm like, no, that's obviously a horrible thing to do. And so, like, that's how I came to the conclusion that, like, the God of the Bible, at least, is a very immoral character in the Bible, and that a lot of the things that a lot of Christians preach about this God are very cherry picked and really just illuminate what they consider, personally, to be like good and moral aspects. So it's really just them that's, cherry picking from their own religious faith what they think is good and moral, and then applying that to like their sense of morality and using God as an excuse. And so I feel like that's a pretty good way to, yeah, that's a good way of looking at like these moral decisions, and like whether or not, like, whatever you believe in is truly a morally righteous sort of position to have. And I think that if more people did that, they would be able to understand like what it means to be a good and moral person, at least to them.
I have one more question, and I appreciate the input. I really do. I've got plenty of good things to chew on here, like I said before. I've got one more question, and I'll let you guys go. Do you think it is possible for someone to simultaneously believe and understand what the Bible says and teaches, and to be a moral person, a morally righteous person in your eyes? Do you think there is a possibility that the bridge could be gapped there?
No, that's negotiable.
I feel like... Sorry, Aron,
the Bible is not. There are aspects of the Bible that you can call moral, but there's an awful lot of it that you just have to overlook. When God argues, when God demands that that genocides be performed, let's look at this. Not only is that wrong, is genocide just objectively wrong, but what's the reason for it? Because they didn't believe. Because they believed in that God, they didn't believe in this God. They didn't believe in our God. And so God knows how to make people believe, right? God would have that ability. Yeah. If it mattered to him so fucking much, he would stroll up there and say, "Hey, I'm God. Look at me," right? But no, doesn't do that. He plays the part of a fictitious character, of a cultural icon that is entirely imaginary, and the deaths that are ordered on all these people come from the men pretending to speak for God. So when Moses orders his people to slaughter the Midianites, kill everybody, kill all the old people, kill every woman and child, except for the preteen virgins, those you can keep for yourself, right?
Can you do me a favor? Can you refer me to? I'm not terribly familiar with the Bible. I haven't read it through and through. Can you refer me to where that is so I can read it for myself and kind of make my own judgment on it?
If I remember correctly, that's Numbers 31.
Numbers 31. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Another fun section to look at is 1 Samuel 15. Because in there it specifically lays out exactly who the Israelites are supposed to kill, and it lays out that you're supposed to kill both men, women, young and old, and even livestock. And so, like, it's very clear that God is ordering the Israelites to commit these atrocities.
Okay, I'm going to do some reading. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for being here to answer my question. I know I'm not like coming on making these massive claims and then we get into a big inflammatory argument, but I think it's really useful for me, at least, to kind of parse this out for me. I'm just trying to learn how to think. So
we totally want. Yes, we totally want to emphasize, like, carefully considering what you believe and why you believe it and all this other stuff, and committing to actually educating yourself about things that your local priest or pastor isn't going to educate you on, because they're not going to tell you about, like, Numbers 31, or they're going to give you some kind of bullshit workaround for it. Because, and to answer your question earlier, I don't think that you can be honest about what's in the Bible and also prop the Bible up as like some kind of moral foundation or some kind of example of a moral being. Like, I feel like it would require you to either ignore some things, or it requires you to justify some objectively horrible and atrocious things. I feel like that's an actual dichotomy, like a pure dichotomy that exists, because you've either got to justify the horrible actions or you've got to ignore them. It's one or the other. And so I feel like that is the case for anybody that's using the Bible or that is a Christian, that's trying to argue for any kind of morally righteous position. I feel like you have to do one of those two things.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me let you guys go and chew on this for a while. I'm sure I'll call back in, whenever you guys do a show again. I've called yesterday. I'm going to call again tomorrow. So you get how it is. But thank you guys so much.
Thanks for calling in, Matt.
No problem. Take it easy, guys.
Bye. All right. So we have another theist. Let me bring. Oh, I should mention about upcoming shows before we jump into the next call. Just to remind everybody, tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time was SkepTalk with Alyssa Ljub and Erika Gibbon, and then Wednesday at 6 it's the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Jim Barrows. Thursday at 6 is the Transatlantic Call-In with Josie Caballero and Luxander. Then a week from yesterday, we have the Sunday Show with Jimmy Snow and Aaron Adair. And then Sunday After Dark with Paul Enns and Eric of Skeptics and Scoundrels. And that's the Sunday Show is at 2 o'clock. And then the Sunday Show After Dark is at 7. And in the interim, I don't know if anybody's going to be in the area of Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, but that's where I'm going to be this weekend for BajaCon.
Me too. I'm going to be up there. Yay! I'm going to see you,
Aron. Very good. Looking forward to it. So we're going to talk to Vincent. Vincent, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi. Good day.
It's all right. What can you do?
First of all, I wanted to apologize. I'm really nervous, so in case I start stuttering or something.
No worries.
Okay, so I guess I'm coming at this from kind of an odd perspective. I would call myself an agnostic theist. I am pagan, to be specific. And recently I've started asking myself if perhaps we would be better off if we if we stop teaching religion to children, or perhaps even if we if society moved on to be largely non-religious at all, completely.
Well, of course, I'm going to say that there's no reason to teach mythology outside of the context of mythology. So there's no reason to teach folklore as fact.
So I'm kind of curious, Vincent, what do you think is the benefit of religion in society?
I'm starting to ask myself if there's any at all.
Okay. So I mean, I'm of the opinion that, you know, I don't think that we need religion in any other kind of context other than to understand the historical significance of religion and how religion has affected human society throughout history. I don't think that religion really offers a lot now. I feel like that there are better secular solutions for a lot of the issues that religion is usually used to solve, like either poverty or any kind of like emotional issues that people might have. I feel like we're better served by actually solving these issues than just sort of, and I've used this analogy a lot. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, but there's this one point in it where the kid throws up in the floor and Adam Sandler covers it with newspaper. I feel like religion, for a lot of the ills of man in general and society, is like Adam Sandler covering the vomit with newspaper and just letting it sit there, because you can't see it anymore, right? Like, it's hidden from you, but it's still festering. It still smells. It's still bad, and you're not actually dealing with the problem. And it gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse. And I feel like religion is that newspaper that helps cover those problems. And I feel like if we actually, deal with the issues that people have, deal with the ills of society, it would be better than just covering it, with newspaper. So, I mean, that's how I feel about religion. I'm not sitting here advocating for like the forceful removal of religion from society. I just think that we as a species need to move past, religion, because I don't think that we need it anymore. We understand how we work as a species, and not completely, obviously, but I feel like we definitely understand ourselves better now than we did like 2,000-3,000 years ago. So I mean, I think that we're better off without religion, in my opinion.
Yeah, and my thought about religion is that it is a net negative against humanity. At the best I could say about it is that it's a pack of lies.
Yeah, the vomit is very much a net negative for like your apartment too. So I'm just saying, like, it's I didn't specifically say that, but it is definitely net negative.
Yes.
All right. Does that cover the question?
Yes, I would say yes. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you for calling in.
It was great. Yeah, it was great hearing from you, Vincent.
Have a great show.
All right,
Thank you for having me.
All right, and we have another theist calling. Let me see where he is.
Yeah, we got a couple.
And we've got Mike. We got Mike. Mike, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
I'm ready for
how you doing?
Call.
So right. How are you?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good. So let's just get to the topic. So, I forgot her name, but she was with Matt, and she said that Genesis 1:6 talks about a physical firmament. But when you actually look at the Hebrew term and how it's used throughout the Bible, it's always talking about the skies, like a physical skies. And even
it is
if
a physical
you take,
sky. That's
the
physical
weird thing.
Sky. It's a solid sky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess a cloud could be a solid sky. I mean,
no,
hurricane.
We're talking about a dome. We're talking about a solid dome. If the Bible is interpreted literally,
hold on. I'm gonna let you finish. No, I'm gonna let you finish.
Well, you have to. It doesn't describe the firmament all in one place. You have to jump around in the Bible a little bit to find it. But the Bible does describe a solid, what is normally taken to be a domicile, like a dome with windows in it, where the water above the firmament, there's windows in the solid dome of the sky that open up to let the rain in. and that the firmament, if you stand at the base of the firmament, I forget what part of the Bible that is, but it talks about it looking like molten glass.
Yeah,
it's very much like a crystal dome.
Okay, so Rakua,
or excuse me, mirrored glass.
Okay, cool. Rakua is used in 4 books of the Bible. It's used in Genesis. It's used in Songs. It's used in I forgot the third one, but every time it's used, it's talking about the skies. It's talking about the heavens. And even if you take Genesis 1:6 literally, it was only over the waters. So I don't know. Is the firmament only?
Let me ask you this: with the Tower of Babel, what exactly were they fucking doing there?
They were trying to build a. Well, first of all, they were doing a project that shows malice, shows like pride. Like they were trying to build a building that reaches all the way to the heaven, which showed their pride, and God had to humble them.
They were trying to build a tower all the way up to heaven because. Why were they doing this? Were they doing this to get to the International Space Station? Like, why in the fuck were they building a giant fucking tower in order to reach God? Like, what did they think was going to happen once they got outside of to the upper atmosphere? Like, do you think that they thought that the atmosphere was going to thin and that they weren't going to be able to breathe anymore? Or did they think that there was like a physical layer to heaven that they could reach and then they could eventually get to God?
Yeah, but if they were going to build that physical layer, they would build it over the seas, because the firmament, if you actually read Genesis 1:6, was only over the waters. It separated the waters from the waters. It wasn't a land thing. So
when God said that, hold on. In Genesis, I'm sorry to stop you, but in Genesis, when he said that,
go ahead.
What was the planet primarily covered with?
I don't know. I didn't live back then.
Fucking water all over the place.
Yeah.
Land. God did not form the land until after that point. I mean, did you just totally fucking miss that particular part of Genesis?
If you look at Isaiah 40:13. It describes that the stars are made to stand in the span of this expanse, meaning the firmament. And at Job 22:12, says that they are high in the firmament. So again, we're talking about a dome here.
Does it use the term Rakua, because that's the Hebrew term that was used in Genesis, or does it use another term that means skies?
I don't know if it uses Rakia in each case, but when I did my Blasphemers Bible study, I have 2 Hebrew speakers on the panel, as well as Bible scholars, and so we've gone all over this. And yeah, it's definitely talking about a dome. And one of the scholars on my show, Lawrence Ufa, is working with Dr. Kip Davis. And they are about to come out with a biblical cosmology video that talks about all the many places that I'm aware of where it describes the earth is flat and standing on columns and covered by a dome and all that. They know of more places because because Lawrence knows Koine Greek and all these other people that they speak Aramaic or Akkadian or whatever. They can read cuneiform. They're aware of all of these other references. So,
all right, could I ask you a question?
Hold
on. I know. Wait. Could I ask him a quick question? I'm gonna let you go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add to the Rakia thing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that Rakia.
None of us is pronouncing it right.
The great thing about the internet is that it's full of great resources. Like, I'm looking at Bible Hub that has a great interlinear resource that has a lot of different concordances and like great just references in general. And like, So the point that you're talking about here, the Brown Driver Briggs Concordance, I believe, has the vault of heaven or the firmament, which is this word rakia, regarded by Hebrews as solid and supporting the waters above it. So this is like solid.
And then
it's
Second Samuel.
Solid.
Hold on, could I respond to what he just said, or I'm gonna let you speak.
Go ahead, respond.
Oh, okay, cool. So, could the firmament that they be talking about, could it be a gas, like maybe the ozone layer, or maybe a cloud?
No.
Since
an extended surface, expanse. Like this is a physical place. Also, it doesn't make sense even later in the New Testament when Paul.
Hold on. Could I respond to what you just say? Can only physical things expand?
It says an extended surface. What the fuck do you think a surface is? Sorry, Aron.
So
I'll let you go.
I mean, you ever heard of
Samuel 22:8? In 2 Samuel 22:8, it says that the firmament has foundations.
Okay. I need to look up the context, because just because you say a verse doesn't mean that we know the true context. I mean, is 2 Samuel
22:8.
Is Samuel talking about like the physical world? More or less. 2 Samuel 22:8. So
it depicts the sun and the moon as being the same size as each other, both smaller than the earth, and the sun is bigger than the stars. Or excuse me, the moon is bigger than all the stars, because the people who wrote this didn't know that the sun was itself just a star. They thought that the sun and the moon were both gliding along the expanse of this firmament, that they're held in track of this dome that they're rolling around in.
Okay, so could it be that they knew that the sun was a star, but since not every star has a name and the sun has a name, they decided to name the sun instead of break?
No, because these people thought that the stars had personalities, and they said that the stars could fall down to the earth to do battle with a human being.
I mean, wait a minute. Did the ancient Jewish people say that they thought the sun they say that the stars had personalities and shit like that? Because that seemed more like a Greek thing than anything.
No, it's in the Bible too.
Right, because the Bible is influenced by Greek thought.
Wait, can I respond to what he just said? Where does it say that the stars have personalities and it falls down to do battle on Earth? Please provide the verse. I'm waiting.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, you can take all the time you need.
Yeah, so in Matthew 24:29, it says that the stars can fall from the sky. And then in Daniel 8:10, it says that people can stomp on them.
Hold on. Could you go back to Matthew 28.
Matthew 24:29.
24:29. Okay.
Yeah. And then in Daniel 8:10, it says that you can stomp on the stars when they fall from the sky. And then it says in Judges 5:20 that they can gang up in combat with a mere human being.
Okay, so let's take it verse by verse, because you scripture bombed a lot of stuff. Let's go to Matthew 24:28, you said?
24:29.
All right, I was right. So, okay, so is there any particular Bible book you prefer, or because I'm at Bible Hub right now.
Okay, as long as it's not KJV, it's probably all right.
Yeah, the KJV sucks. All right. Yeah, KJV is horrible. They're fucking horrible. And you know what? The funny thing is, King James was a bisexual, and it's hilarious that all these. No, I just find it ironic that all the people who are anti-gay use King James when King James was an open bisexual.
Okay.
Don't you think that's a little funny?
I mean,
believers are nothing if not ironic.
Yep.
Yes, they are.
Well,
okay, so I'm gonna use New International Version. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Immediately after the stress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give light. The stars will fall from the heavens and the heavenly bodies be shooken. Okay, so I don't really see. Okay, stars will fall from heavens. I mean, do you not believe that stars can be meteors or?
No, the stars cannot be meteors.
I think they were quite literal with their words.
Pardon me?
I think that they were literal with their words.
Yeah, stars are, even the tiniest star is still bigger than the Earth. So the notion of a star falling to the Earth is ridiculous.
Hold on. There isn't a star that's smaller than the Earth. All stars are bigger than the Earth.
Yeah, they also have more gravity, and it would be ridiculous to imagine a star falling to the Earth in any context. A star, the tiniest star imaginable, even if it was smaller than the Earth, if a star fell to the Earth, that would be the last thing that ever happened on the Earth.
Yeah, it would be. It's called the apocalypse. I mean, this is apocalyptic. Like, if the sun darkens, then everything on Earth would die. And if the moon stops showing light, then of course that's our second light source, so everything on Earth would die. I mean,
which technically it's not a light source; it's only reflecting light from the sun. So they didn't know that either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
then Job 37:18. Job 37:18 says, "Hast thou stretched out the heavens, which are strong, and as molten glass?"
Okay.
Which in other translations will call it mirrored glass.
Okay, so the heavens, that's talking about outer space.
No, it isn't.
How do you know it's not?
Not to them.
Because the Earth that they depicted was a flat disk divided into 4 sections, quadrants, sometimes mistranslated as corners, but it's going north, south, east, west. So what? A disk.
Yeah, these are directions.
Erected upon what?
These are directions. North, south, east, west. The 4 corners are directions.
Right. That's exactly right. The 4
so it's
quadrants.
Not literal.
So it is literal, but it's mistranslated as corners. When the Bible says the 4 corners of the earth, it means the 4 quadrants of the earth. So do you have the flat disk?
Could I ask you a follow-up question? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so would you think a more accurate translations of, instead of corners, it would be directions?
No, because it's divided into 4 quadrants.
Okay.
You take a circle, you draw a plus sign through the middle of it.
Okay.
That's your north, south, east, west.
Okay, even if they thought the world was flat, it wouldn't have a corner because for it to have a corner,
right?
It
That's
would
why
have
it's
to have
a
point.
mistranslation. That's why instead of being corners, it's more correct to say quadrants.
Okay, so I guess ovals have quadrants.
If you have a flat disk and you draw a plus sign in the middle of it, right? Now you have the northwest corner, the northeast corner, the southwest corner, the southeast corner, or quadrant, rather.
Yeah, so hold on. I feel, Mike, I feel like you're being anachronistic about your interpretation here. You're importing modern knowledge into these ancient texts, and you're claiming that they understood things better than they actually did. Not.
Yeah, if you read the rest of Job, it is clear that God didn't know what the fuck. God had no idea how anything worked. So God brags that God says in Job that the earth is flat, straight out. He says that the earth takes the shape. The earth. He says the earth takes. He says the earth takes the shape of what is it? Clay under a seal.
Could you please tell me the verse?
Okay, I'll have to look up the verse. I'm telling you what it says, but you're not listening to me.
No, I need to know the verse. I'm sorry. I want to look this up myself. I'm very skeptical. I'm skeptical of everything people say. I'm sorry if I don't take your word as gospel.
Then I wonder how it was that you ever came to believe the Bible in the first place.
I mean, I could tell you the story of how I came to believe. It has to do with like angels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I want to hear this story. Tell me where did can you show me on the doll whether angels touched you?
Job 34:14.
At the heart.
The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. That's from Job 38:14. That's God himself saying that the earth is flat.
Wait a minute. Isn't clay bulky? Like, it's talking about a pot. Isn't a pot?
It's got he says its features stand out like those in a garment. So it's got topography to it. But it's still it's clay under a seal. You know what a seal? What they're talking about? Clay in a seal? Back before they had stamps and glue.
I mean, they would usually shape. They would usually shape the clay. Like, it's saying that the earth has shape and form.
The clay is used as a glue. You close up the scroll, you put a dab of clay on it to close it and glue it closed, and then you put your seal on it because only you have that seal. And so the seal bears your mark.
But where does it mention a seal at all? It's talking about clay. If it
Job
mentioned a seal,
38:14.
No, but in the verse, it doesn't talk about a seal. It doesn't talk about
the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. That's what it literally. That's what God Himself is saying. God says that the earth is flat because why? Because God doesn't fucking know anything. God is just a character in a story that was made up by men who didn't know any fucking thing. And that's why God in Job says that he keeps lightning in storehouses to be used at times of war, and he keeps snow in a separate storehouse to be used in battle, because God will either lob lightning bolts at you like Zeus, or he could be given to a snowball fight.
I mean, these are all metaphorical. These are all metaphors. Like, if you take...
Yeah, this is God talking to Job. And God is trying to be superior. He's trying to belittle Job. Because if Job is challenging anything, that God says, well, what the fuck do you know? And so God is trying to be pompous. This would be the point when God would say shit that is correct, if he was correct. I mean, but no, that's not what God does here. God says a bunch of stupid shit we know to be wrong. And the reason that he does is because the story was made up by ignorant, bigoted, superstitious savages who didn't know what the fuck they were talking about.
I mean, isn't the book of Job the book where it says that air has weight to it, which we wouldn't find out until thousands of years later? I mean, that the
problem is they didn't know what air is. That's why we believe that we have spirits now.
Right. I'm wondering, well, do you know what anachronistic means? Do you know what that word means?
Like something that has to do with association?
No, it means out of time.
Right. You're importing your current understanding. No, you're not out of time. You're importing your current understanding onto this ancient text. You're not refocusing your understanding of the ancient text on what they would have understood the text to say and to mean. And instead of doing that, you are choosing to take your current understanding of this as metaphor, as all these other different ideas, and you're saying, oh, these ancient people understood this as metaphor, and there's literally no evidence to suggest that they thought of these things as metaphor. Like, if you can, 2 Corinthians 12, if you go there, starting at verse 2, it has Paul that talks about how a man was literally taken up to the third heaven, and he saw like paradise or Eden. And then in other texts, it's revealed that Adam and Eve and other the first humans were actually buried in the third heaven. So, like, how
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Hold on, could I respond?
My question is that why did Paul consider heaven or the heavens to be a physical earthly place that you could actually go to or you could be brought up to if it was like just air?
Well, God can do anything, so he can bring flesh into the spirit world like he did with Enoch and Elijah. And second,
I totally agree. If we say that magic exists and that magic can explain anything, then anything is possible with magic. I totally agree
God
about
can do
that.
anything?
Hold on, could I ask you, what's your definition of magic?
The supernatural.
The bending of the natural laws of reality to achieve some kind of effect. The point is that it bends or it breaks the rules of nature as we perceive them.
Magic and miracle have essentially the same definition. If you look up both words in any, get a handful of dictionaries, Google a handful of different dictionaries, look up the definitions of magic and miracle. They're the same thing. So the only difference is that.
So when people say you have I'm trying to, you're magic on the field, they're saying that you're a miracle?
Yeah, kind of.
Or you have a magic when it comes to attracting ladies. They're saying you have a miracle when it comes to attracting ladies?
Kind of.
I'm saying Wingardium Bullshitiosa.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm trying to
so
get
when Gandalf utters an incantation and his staff lights up to illuminate the room, or when Hermione dispels all the evil spirits by uttering her incantation and wielding her wand, or if you use a talisman where the enchantment is encased in the talisman, or if you do like the Bible says, the Bible has all kinds of magic throughout it. It's got curses, which are a negative enchantment. It's got blessings, which are a positive enchantment. It's got necromancy, which is revival of the dead. And it's got water bending, amusingly, right? A couple of different places. And then there's an elemental spell being performed in Leviticus 14 that actually does involve a wand, but it also involves all of the elements. The reason it's an elemental spell is because if you look at the pentacle, if you look at the 5 points of a pentacle, what are each of the things on there? There's earth, wind, fire, life. And so all of these elements are integrated into the spell that's being used to cure scabies or leprosy or whatever spell they were casting. And that's when you have to do the blood. You have to sacrifice a bird and dip the wand in the blood of the dead bird, and then use the wand to sprinkle the blood all over the walls of the house, whatever. And then you sprinkle the blood onto a live bird, and you release the live bird into a field so that now you've incorporated air. Now, all of this has to be you have to run running water into an earthenware bowl. So you've got water, wind, earth, and then of course life, right? Which is the fifth element, regardless whether you've seen that Milla Jovovich movie or not.
Yes, I love magic. I love magic. I know a few Haitians, but can you give me like a definition? I'm glad.
I know. Wait. We mentioned magic, and you're like, I love Haitians. Like that's a weird pivot there. Haitians, like I love Haitians. What are you talking about?
Wait, Haitians practice voodoo. They're very much into magic and spells and stuff like that. Now, as a Christian,
so are Christians.
Transfiguration.
Yeah, so are Christians. Christians love to eat human flesh and then drink the blood. I mean, it.
Well, it's only Catholics that believe in a literal transfiguration, like the cracker turns into flesh.
Transubstantiation. Yes, I used the wrong word. Sorry.
Transubstantiation. Oh gosh, we're all fucking up these words, man. But yes, it's only Catholics who believe in like the cracker turning into flesh and the wine turning into blood. But
and then there was that one, the ones where I mentioned the necromancy. There was one of those cases of necromancy. Is my favorite one. Is the army of the dead. What was that? Was that Ezekiel, where somebody revives an army of the dead in a total zombie scene? I swear that.
Yeah, you're talking about when Ezekiel.
Aron, I'm having trouble distinguishing between Ezekiel and Matthew right now. So, yeah, one of those has an army of the dead.
Yeah,
both of them have
where somebody just brought about the Deadites.
Yeah, both of them have the army of the dead. Matthew has the army of the saints, and Ezekiel has the army of the bones, where he sings.
Oh, you want to know something interesting about that?
It was Ezekiel 37:10.
Right. The only reason why that exists in Ezekiel is because the Jews were in exile and they were exposed to Zoroastrianism, and so that's the reason why those types of stories were in Ezekiel. So, think the Zoroastrians.
Most of the books written about Zoroastrianism was written after the Jewish people.
No, it wasn't.
Citation fucking needed. Yeah. Citation fucking needed.
The Avestas of Zarathustra. The Avestas of Zarathustra are contextually dated to 600 BCE, and that's when the oldest books of the Bible appear, like Amos and Hosea. But the books you're talking about, like with Genesis and such, those are post-exilic, so they were centuries later.
Yep.
I mean, the oldest manuscripts may go back to post-exilic, but that's because it's hard to keep books over 4,000 years old.
But they're not anywhere near close to. They're not 4,000 years old. They're nowhere close to that. They were composed. Okay. They were composed less than 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, it's more important when the belief actually formed rather than what's our oldest manuscript of it, or how old we can actually date our current manuscript. It depends on when it actually formed, because like Zoroastrianism also gave us Satan and a burning hell. So I mean that those things were integrated into Judaism, therefore creating Christianity. And so those things are
minor
not
correction. The Christians reached past Judaism to take the damnation in hell from Zoroastrianism. Judaism is largely based on Zoroastrianism, but the concept of hell was not part of Judaism. That Christianity.
I mean, they have Sheol. They have Sheol, and they have
but it's very
numbers.
Different. Yeah, but what about? I think I'm trying to remember which Avesta it was, but it says that the righteous man will, upon his death, ascend to the kingdom of justice and truth under the wise Lord Ahura Mazda, whereas the wicked man will, upon his death, descend into the kingdom of the lie, ruled by Ahriman the opposer, which is also in the original language was Ha-Shetan, also known as the Satan, the enemy.
What about Numbers 33, where it talks about the realm of the dead, which is hell, in which they had a fiery death?
Well, it's not a hell because it's where everybody goes, good and bad. Everybody. It's more akin to Hades, because the Hebrew Sheol is where everybody dead goes, and you go to be dead. You don't go to be punished. You go to be dead. You're dead there.
I think that concept was more or less like inputted through Greek philosophy than anything, because the Old Testament talks about heaven and it talks about Sheol, which before Jesus Christ was hell. And I mean, what about Elijah? Do you just think he floated up to Sheol?
Well, I think that Sheol was deader than Abilene, Texas on a Monday night.
So you're not really answering my question. What about Enoch? Do you think he floated up to Sheol? Do you think Sheol is the top and the bottom?
I think what we have got with Enoch is that somebody saw somebody sucked up by a vortex.
So that's it? Like, that's how God took him, by a vortex? I would think that
that's the bullshit story they made up about it.
Right. So the Jews in the Old Testament, they didn't have a concept of a burning hell or heaven. They just had the afterlife, which is why they also called it Hades. It's similar to in Greek mythology, how everybody went to the same place.
Hades is a Greek term. Hades is a Greek term, not a Hebrew term, not an Aramaic term.
Hades is used in the Bible. Hades is used in the Bible.
Yeah, in the New Testament.
Afterlife is described as Hades.
Yeah, Sheol and Hades are very similar to each other. Very similar concept. You don't get the Christian concept of hell really anywhere in the Bible. That's actually more taken from Dante's Inferno, because there's a lot of stuff that Christians believe that is in the Bible that is not in the Bible at all.
Am I still on? Well,
yeah.
Have you ever read the second century Apocalypse of Peter?
No.
Okay, so it's a second century book that talks about all the concepts of hell, like Dante Inferno. It wasn't new to
Sounds
the
like
game.
I don't give a fuck about it.
Old. What?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it sounds like
Neil Gaiman's. Did you ever read Neil Gaiman's American Gods?
No.
Much better read.
Maybe you can send it to me. I'm broke. Like, I'm broke, guys. Like, you need to y'all need to give to my Cash App, man.
Yeah, if I weren't broke myself, which, by the way, patreon.com/ARONRA. I need all the help I can fucking get.
Me too.
Struggle for me.
I don't need money, but at the same time, I'm not going to give you money for whatever you're trying to push here. I'm also not seeing this burning hell thing in Numbers 33. Is that the correct
16? It's number 1633, and
okay, 1633. You said 33, and so like I was so confused.
Okay, yeah,
Numbers
you kind of like
1630. Nope, you said the wrong thing, so I went to the thing that you said. Let's see, Numbers 1633. They went down alive into the realm of the dead with everything they owned. The earth closed over them, and they perished and were gone from the community. At their cries, this is verse 34, at their cries, all the Israelites around them fled, shouting, "The earth is going to swallow us too!" And
I told you. Sheol is the land of the dead. You go there to be dead.
Right. So 35 mentions fire. It says, and fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. So that's the Lord being the fire. That's not Sheol or the afterlife being the fire.
I mean that hell is the Lord's fire.
Hell. I mean, this is right, and that's imported from Zoroastrianism. So, I mean,
wait. So Zoroastrianism has its own hell,
right?
Yeah, they were the ones that invented the concept of hell.
No, what is it
they
called?
They invented hell as a punishment for. They invented hell as a punishment for good and evil. Whereas the sad thing is that the subsequent religions that have adopted that, specifically Christianity and Islam, they kind of missed the whole point, because in Zoroastrianism, you go to hell for being a bad person. But in Christianity and Islam both, you go to hell not for being bad, but for not believing. not believing impossible nonsense for no good reason when told to you by liars that you cannot trust. That's what you go to hell for in both of those religions.
Well, non-belief is an action. You can't believe in Jesus Christ and then turn around and rape people or murder people.
Well, why are so many of the rapists Christians?
Because Christian.
Why is it that the most extremely religious, statistically? Why is it that? Well, hold on a minute. Why is it that the most statistically, the more religious you are, the more and younger victims of sexual abuse you have, statistically?
Citation needed. Is it like a Catholic Church thing or what?
No.
It's
all. You know what the difference between the Catholic and the Protestant clergy is? You know how to tell the difference between Catholic and Protestant clergy? By which gender of children they molest.
Oh, so Catholics molest boys and Protestants molest girls?
Yep. Go see your youth pastor. How do you feel? See how many 16-year-old girlfriends he has.
Too many?
Too many is your answer? Like, this is not the flex that you think it is.
I mean, one is too many. One is too many, and 16 is legal in my state.
Oh, that makes it so much fucking better.
I mean,
red flag. I wish I had a red flag crop here because this is like red flag. 16's legal, so.
Yeah, this is a fun conversation.
Yeah, y'all.
So tell me more about
Tell me
about objective morality now.
Can I ask you a question? Hold on. Could I ask you a question? How do y'all feel about the rape epidemic when it comes to teachers?
The rape epidemic when it comes to teachers.
Well, so I think that it is a problem, but it's better handled in the public school system than it is in churches because churches regularly forgive and forget, and they recirculate pastors and priests throughout different parishes and congregations so that they can continue to offend underage children. And so,
what happened to that Pope?
Hold on,
Darth Ratzinger? Pope Benedict?
Wait, could I tell this? The reason why the education system is worser is because when you get worser is a word. Get over it. It's a word.
Worster is not a word.
Yes, it is. It was used by William Shakespeare. Come on.
Look
this up.
Shut the fuck up.
Worser is an archaic or non-standard word that means worse.
So it is a word, though. It's a
non-standard and archaic.
Okay.
Anyways,
but I will grant you this.
You're about to.
You can use it in the same context as wronger. Have you ever heard the word wronger? Wronger is only used when we're talking about religion.
Okay.
Because the only thing that can be more wrong than wrong is wronger is religion.
Okay.
Well, so
tell that to all the communist countries that stole everybody's land and lives.
I don't even know what the fuck that means.
The communist countries that sold everybody's land and lied. The fuck does that got to do with religion?
Because
that's a good point, Aron.
Because most communist countries are anti-religious. In fact,
except that no, they're not. Look at Cuba, for example, and Russia. Stalin employed the Russian Orthodox Church to spread the doctrine of communism. Employed them.
Yeah, he forced them.
Employed.
Still forced them. I mean, if you don't do what
he doesn't know what employed means, Aron.
Yeah, I'm giving up on this guy.
He paid them. Hold on. Could I say one more thing about these teachers? I would say that
if you promise that it's one more thing.
Okay, here's my closing argument. I would say that the education system is much more brutal because when a female teacher molests a boy, people cheer. They don't do that with Catholic priests. They don't do that with Protestants. They don't do that with anybody. And I'm done.
Okay. So I just had to push back against this because in the public school system, like, I get it that the mainstream media, the media in general, represents them differently when it's a underage girl versus an underage boy. Like, I get that. I'm totally with you on that particular point. But the whole idea that the Catholic Church or the Protestant churches out there, those communities, don't provide a worse situation than public schools is just fucking insane to me, because the public school system holds people accountable for their heinous actions. They do not purposefully circulate. Hold on. I'm not done. They don't purposefully circulate teachers throughout the school systems. They prosecute them. They don't. No. I mean, I would need a fucking citation for that. But for the Protestant and Catholic churches, they regularly forgive and forget. They circulate these pastors throughout different pastors, priests, whatever. They circulate them throughout these church communities, and they think that just because they've reconciled with God that they're fine and that they won't offend again, but they do. And with public school teachers, it's not like, and I know this because here in Alabama, there are churches that advocate for these kinds of situations being handled internally rather than externally by the police. Public schools, they don't have that kind of dogma attached to it. They report people to the police. They handle people through the secular government that we have. And so that means that these people are held accountable for their actions. In churches, you don't have that. You have forgive and forget policies. You have recirculation of pedophiles throughout these church communities. So just representing these two things as the exact same thing is just woefully misinformed. And it just shows that you have a blind spot for religion and you want to focus on everybody else other than your own fucking congregation. So how about you actually focus on your own fucking community? I don't give a shit. Focus on your own fucking community.
Oh, okay.
Focus on your own.
When we point out a problem, we point out a problem with religion,
wherever the rapist
when
is.
we point out a problem with religion, you try to do a whataboutism to shift somehow over to communism. To try to what about atheism? Atheism does bad things too. No, admit your own shit before trying to point a finger at somebody else.
Okay, I'll admit it. I'll admit it. A lot of religious establishments have a problem, or at least they did in the 80s and 90s, and maybe on.
How about name one that doesn't have a significant problem right now? And that hasn't always had a significant problem. It wasn't always evil. Always evil.
A religion that wasn't always evil?
Yeah.
Do it have to be a Protestant religion or what? I mean, what about
Protestantism is a religion by itself. We could take Christianity as a religion. We can subdivide Christianity into Catholicism and Protestantism, and you can also make some subsets into Mormonism and such. I would argue that all three variants have always been evil. Always. Islam,
you hate the Quakers?
Always evil. Quakers?
Yes, Islam is evil.
Yeah, all of them.
Their prophets
are all authoritarian. They all want to torture, and they all want to commit genocide and torture and abuse people over mind crimes, thought crimes of whether you believe or not. Did you know that in the United States, or before there was the United States, when it was just the colonies, we had the Catholics come over here, and they're slaughtering the Native Americans right, left, and center, arguing that they aren't even people, that they were soulless, talking parrots in human guise. That was the Catholic position. Then the Protestants, or the
Was this
Quakers
said by a pope or
and the
something?
What?
Was this said by a pope? Like usually Catholic
No,
statements
this
are public.
is in history. So they came
No,
over here.
like, could you give me an example of when they were talking carrot?
The Volodoid trial of 15.
Could you spell that?
Yeah, hold on a second. It's going to take me a minute to look that up.
I can't spell that shit.
But the point is, Catholicism has always been evil. Christianity in general, always been evil. Mormonism, always been evil. The Quakers,
yeah, Mormons are evil.
The Quakers have been at war with the Puritans with the Quakers, the Huguenots with the Catholics with the Puritans, with the Catholics with the Protestants, the Hindus with the Sikhs, always and forever.
Wait a minute. So they're evil for waging a war of defense against the Puritans?
Yes. Violent prejudice against each other over what they believe. Not even whether they're good or bad, but over what they believe. A thought crime. Yes, evil.
So
and we've spent way too much. We've spent. Hold on. We've spent way too much time with you. Fun though this is, I have other people in the queue, and I want to respect them too.
God bless. I wish you all have a nice day. We spent way too long on this. I'm gonna call back maybe on another day. God bless you.
Okay.
I tried to save y'all, but it looked like it didn't work.
Save us from fucking what? Anyway, never mind.
You remember that a blessing is a magical enchantment with positive effects, right? So when you tell someone to have a blessed day, you are literally telling them to have a magically enchanted day.
Yes, accept my magic, please.
Yeah. All right.
I love you, man. I want to see you in the afterlife.
There is no afterlife. We don't have souls. Goodbye.
Oh, okay. You'll see.
Yeah. Well, no, we won't actually, because when you die, funny thing about when you die, you're dead.
Okay.
And you don't learn anything when you're dead. You don't see anything. You don't remember anything. You're dead.
So
that's what being dead means.
Hold on. So what stopped people from doing wrong all their life and then killing themselves and not facing justice?
Because we live in a society. We want to be remembered for the positive things. We get positive feedback out of being positive for other people. You're not going to
remember shit.
It doesn't matter. We don't get joy out of being evil.
Psychopaths do.
If we're functional, we don't.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate your call, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. I love both of you.
No, you don't. Goodbye. Okay, so now we have. Yep. I'm going to talk to Brittany. Brittany, can you hear us? Brittany in Tejas.
Hello, how are you guys? I can hear y'all.
Doing well. Happy to hear from you.
Hello. Well, sorry if I'm a little nervous. But anyways, I'm really torn between Christianity and being an atheist. If I could give you guys a little background on
sure.
Like how I grew up with religion, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I grew up going to a house church all the time. All the time. It was fucking horrible. I'm not even gonna front. Sorry for cussing. Excuse my language. We would spend summers over there all the time, every single day, praising God from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I'm not even like over exaggerating. It was that bad. And and anyways, I grew up in a toxic household as well. So going to church and stuff and everything, and being abused by by a Christian mother and neglected by her. It just didn't make sense to me. And then my father, he is very abusive and alcoholic. Supposedly he does believe in God, whatever, and try to follow the word of God, whatever. But he has tried to end my life before. He abused me my whole life and everything. And my parents, they follow the Bible, whatever, and stuff. But yet their actions say otherwise. To me, if you're saved or whatever, and yet you still do sinful stuff or bad stuff that's not right in God's eyes, but you're saved, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, if you study the Bible more, you'll realize that actually does make sense. There's an awful lot of child abuse in the Bible.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that too. Well, now I'm 22 years old, and I've been researching a lot about the different religions and stuff, and just trying to see what's right or wrong, or just the truth. I want to know the truth. Yeah, so me going through abuse and everything, my parents would always use that verse in the Bible where honor, thy mother and thy father, and they would always tell me that it doesn't matter what they do to me or how they make me feel, that I have to honor them no matter what. And if not, I'm a horrible person. I'm gonna go to hell, this and that, blah blah blah. So that's one thing.
Yeah. Let me just put a little bit more shade on that. You know why the Bible says to honor thy father and thy mother? It gives the reason: honor thy father and thy mother, that thou will live a long life. Do you ever wonder why it would say that if you honor your father and your mother, then you will live a long life? Do you ever think about that?
No, not really.
It's because elsewhere, there's a couple of places elsewhere in the Bible where it says that if you don't honor your father and your mother, they can kill you.
That makes sense. Interesting.
Yeah, that's why it says that you will live a long life.
Well, so in the Bible, it puts at the very paramount of the teaching in the Bible is about being obedient and not asking questions and just doing what you're told. And they put a huge emphasis on this. And so obeying your mother and your father, regardless of what they do to you, like that's just another aspect of that. And I mean, I'm sitting here as a person that doesn't honor their father and their mother. You don't have to do that. Like you do not, like I feel like that leads to very bad situations and that can result in your abuse. And I think that you need to, in these situations, definitely put yourself first. And earlier in the show tonight, I talked about how, like, me as a father, how would I treat my son, and recontextualizing a lot of the things that I experienced in my past in that light. I think that, thinking about how you would be as a parent, how you would treat your child as a parent, and, what things you would consider to be just abhorrent or wrong to do to your child. I think that you need to apply that kind of thinking to, how your parents treat you. And like if your parents treat you in a very shitty way or they abuse you or something like that, I feel like everybody can identify the abuse. It's just that you don't need this idea that you have to honor your father and your mother regardless of what they do to you. You do not have to do that. Like if they're abusive to you, it's okay to admit that they are abusive to you.
I feel that I need to disabuse you of the illusion that the Bible is in any sense a moral doctrine. The Bible says that a father may sell his daughter into slavery, and that if she fails to sexually satisfy her owner, then he can kick her out with no money, no compensation, nothing. He can throw out what would be technically probably most likely about a 15-year-old girl would throw her out into the wilderness to fend for herself. That's the morality that the Bible advocates for children.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. That doesn't seem like a loving God would do that. Like
that would be my opinion. Yeah.
And I also have a couple quick questions, if that's okay with you guys.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, so I unfortunately have a brother, and I say that because he's touched me growing up and stuff, and growing up, he would always tell me, like, if you keep pissing me off, like, I'm gonna go in your room and rape you at night. And well, I told my parents and everything, and they took his side. They don't believe me. My story has never ever switched up. And what's crazy is that I'm a homosexual, I'm a lesbian and stuff, but they prefer this horrible, disgusting, perverted creep instead of me because I'm a homosexual. I don't think that's right at all. Like how could a God? I don't know.
The Bible does say positive things. Implies positive things about certain homosexual relationships without being too overt about it. But the only overt messages that the Bible reads is to say that homosexuality is an abomination, as is cross-dressing and so forth. So the Bible is a very primitive work written by primitive people. It is not the word of God. If there is a God, he had no hand in writing the Bible.
Yeah,
and I think that I think that it's totally horrible. The situation that you seem to be in, like, that's just that it's not a healthy situation for anybody. And I think that you deserve better.
Thank you very much. I'm still trying to accept that in this life I will never ever feel or experience how it is to have a relationship with your parents or family, really, because they're just fucking horrible. But
you do have this option. It used to be popularly believed that if you were homosexual, that you would never have a fulfilling relationship, that you would never know love, that you would never have a rewarding life. But we know now that's not true either. So a lot of us ended up with shit family. A lot of us have family that won't even speak to us anymore. I can emphasize with you in that. And my family was okay with me not believing in God until I didn't worship the orange God. and then I lost all family ties and a lot of my friends as well. But there are significant relationships that I have and that you can have too. And you don't, all of the bullshit about, blood is thicker than water and all of that crap. No, you make your own life. You establish your own relationships. And you can have a very rewarding life. You don't have to honor your father and your mother because you know what? They can't legally kill you like the Bible says they can.
And I do want to emphasize that there is an organization out there that can really help with these situations, and that's Recovering from Religion Foundation. If just recoveringfromreligion.com or .org, I believe it is. If you can, you can go there and you can get a lot of resources that can help you work through a lot of these things. And you have to echo something that my wife said in the chat, and it's you can make your own family. Like, family doesn't have to be blood related. You can have a very fulfilling, like, familial relationship with people that aren't, your blood relatives. And so I highly suggest finding somebody that finding a group of people that you can really identify with, that will prop you up and that will protect you, from the horrible things that you've told us about here.
And by the way, Brittany, I don't know if you've been seeing the chat, but you've been getting a lot of love in the chat.
Thank you guys so much. Sorry, I struggle with this like a lot, and thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I do have a like 2-3 more quick questions, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Well, so when I turned 18, I started to question the Bible more and just the religion as a whole. And to me, it's how can I believe something that has been rewritten so many times, and there's so many books and missing books. It doesn't make sense. And
Ed was never right in the original version.
Yeah, that it doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know. And there's just one verse that really kind of stood out to me. That made me think, like, well, this doesn't make sense. It's John 9:31. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if anyone is a worshiper of God and does his will, God listens to him. Then how does God expect people to go to him? Why can't we just try to question or ask questions or whatever? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. Like, and why can't we question God?
I've often said that the Bible has gotten practically everything wrong, scientifically and historically, ethically and morally. Anybody that would cite the Bible as their exclusive source of morality would be a criminal in every country on this planet. The Bible is not a moral book. There is no... I can't say there's no wisdom in it, because there's a couple of individual lines that make nice bumper stickers, but for the most part, it's lipstick on a pig. The Bible is mostly horror.
So I feel like that particular verse is more about obedience, than anything else. It's a verse that's supposed to compel you to be obedient to the supposed word of God. And I feel like, if you can identify that this is somewhat fucky, for the lack of a better word that I can think of right now, this is something that's a little bit weird in the Bible. I feel like you can definitely identify in the rest of the Bible how it's really focused on control and obedience and trying to get you to just do what it tells you to do, or more specifically, it's a recipe book to allow people to manipulate and control you. And I think that being able to identify these things is a very important thing. And the fact that you can identify this as something that is not indicative of like an all good or compassionate God, I think that you're well on your way to really critically thinking about like the Bible as just like an ancient text that was used by people at one time. And I would just say, keep critically thinking about it, keep questioning these things, and keep recentering yourself to think about, like, well, what I do, like, is this something that I would threaten somebody with? Is this something that I would tell somebody to do? I think putting it in that context can really illuminate like how much better of a person you are than whatever is in the Bible.
I'm going to break the rules of the show a little bit, because I've got a comment from Christopher Martin, who offers $20 Canadian, and says, please read this one now. Brittany, we all love you. Really. So glad you are able to reach out. Seriously, Brittany, if you're feeling low, read the chat. You're getting a lot of love in this chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm trying not to cry, but thank you.
We're all there. We're all right there with you.
Thanks. I'd rather know the ugly truth than believe in a beautiful lie,
Beautiful lie. Yeah.
Thank you so much. If there's any arguments or points that you guys want to tell me or advice, so it
I would
shift
hope
my
that you
mind.
be. I would like to see you networked with a positive social structure. I mean, unfortunately, social media allows that. You know, I mean, Facebook is. I'm old, so I use Facebook, but I have quite a network on there, and it's nice to be able to connect with people that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage you to use it.
And
Yes, sir,
just
I will look into it.
and remember, recovering from religion.org, they can help, like, I don't know where you are at in the world, but they can help connect you with like secular therapists. They've even got resources that you can talk to people like online confidentially, like about what you're going through, and you can talk with them and they can help you out there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. I searched that up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
It's no problem, and you can always call back here. You know, we have several shows throughout the week. If you need any kind of advice or need to talk about anything, I mean, we're always here for you.
Thank you guys so much. I just have one last quick question. I'm so sorry if I'm like bothering or anything.
You don't need to apologize.
Okay. Well, so I don't know if you guys are familiar with endometriosis. I have endometriosis. I've had it since I was 11. I know that in the Bible, I don't know, like I can't remember what verse or whatever, so sorry. But that God doesn't purposely inflict suffering like illnesses or whatever. And growing up, like I said, I've had it since 11. So then I always prayed and prayed, and nothing ever changed or worked. So, I mean, that kind of made me also to think that, well, God can be all loving or all powerful or even real. So what's your guys' kind of like take on that, I guess?
The notion that God never gives you more than you can handle. I've seen so many people in my life who believed in God and never deserved the constant onslaught of horror that was visited upon them. Whereas I have been an unbeliever for the vast majority of my life, and I feel like I've had a blessed existence. Like I could just skate through shit. So it's a little bit of a mystery to me how these people can. It bothers me that there's no sense of justice, that there is no karma. You know, that people can be selfish and cruel and just get away with everything, and that other people who just don't deserve it at all constantly get the shit end of the stick. And I've seen so many examples of that, and they're usually believers that get the worst end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I totally agree with that.
I would just say trust your intuitions with this, because like I feel like if there was an all loving God, then there's a lot of things about the human experience that just simply wouldn't happen if an all powerful loving God was really at the helm. So I think the best advice I can give you is just trust your intuitions on this. Like, like I said before, really put yourself in this position. Think about, well, would I, like, as a loving person, would I ever do this to somebody? And I think that can help you figure out, like, what you should really think about God as far as how we experience reality now. And I think that can really illuminate things for you.
Yes, and I will definitely. Thank you. Also, what's your quick take on like marijuana? If God created everything and he created marijuana. No, so then why is it bad to use marijuana? And I smoke THC specifically
I
for
don't personally enjoy marijuana, but I get what you're saying. It could be legal everywhere, and I still wouldn't imbibe just because of my own personal preferences. But it's like whether we drink beer or wine, it's not a moral issue. If you enjoy marijuana, have at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that I would look at it, as far as this particular conversation goes. The science indicates that marijuana is not any worse than like alcohol. In a lot of instances, it's not as addictive. Yeah, not as bad, not as addictive, and all this other stuff. So, as far as like the science goes on marijuana usage and everything like that, it's very similar to like other kinds of things like alcohol, and so I don't think that it's really a moral issue or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that concludes everything. I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me on, and I really, really appreciate your kind words and your advice, and as well as the chat. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you so much for calling in. Yeah,
yes,
please
sir.
feel free to call in again in the future.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a great evening.
All right, you too.
All right, we got another theist in the queue, and I'm glad that we do, because I do a lot of these shows where we don't, and it's always frustrating when we don't. But we got one more, and we're going to be trying to talk to Tommy. Tommy, he, him, in Virginia.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hello, Tommy.
Yeah. Hello. How are you doing, guys?
Doing well. What is your quandary?
Yeah. So I am, naturally a skeptic. I'm not quite religious, but I'm also skeptic against atheism. I do not. When I look at the Bible, I do believe that there could be ways that we could reinterpret the Bible so that it's not immoral, or
gotta ignore
the
an awful lot.
interpretation of the Bible. The literal interpretation of So if it's something that's written, when you're trying to teach something to a child, you could not possibly explain the exact concept using the right vocabulary, things like that. You have to use, simpler ideas, something that the child can relate to. So I tend to think that the Bible was also written in a similar way. When you're talking about God, I imagine he would be very, super advanced. And some of the things, in order to understand him, our constitution, the way we, our nature itself, our mind, may not, enable us to understand, to comprehend it fully. Just the way we struggle to understand, for example, a fourth dimensional space, trying to, visualize it in our head. So, even in the Bible, I think it's 1 Corinthians 13:12. It says, the things that you know now, you only know partially. And then later, when you have, been transformed in His image and likeness, that you'll be able to understand it fully. So that kind of aligns nicely for me with the idea that, a super complex, advanced God trying to reach out to us has to use our terms, our language. He has to come down to our level of understanding in order to communicate to us. Just as you would have to stoop down and use simple, gestures, for example, when if you want to talk to an animal. So
God is a telepath, right?
Right. Yeah.
And he can connect to all of us psychically at the same time, right?
Yes.
So why do we have 1 billion people going to go to Muslim hell and 1 billion people going to go to Christian hell? Because he couldn't make that clarification.
So, again, it goes back to the literal interpretation. So a lot of people, I believe, whatever religion they're from, they have taken a lot of things literally. I believe there are other subtler messages that God would try to communicate to us. The way that God would telepathically connect with the rest of us, I believe, is through our conscience. So we all have it.
Wouldn't it be easier?
Basic understanding of.
Wouldn't it be easier to communicate to us telepathically than through doctrine that we can prove are not true?
It would. I would imagine it would be easier if people would share their experiences and they just communicated between themselves. Also,
I always thought that if God wanted to communicate with people, why is it that he habitually, always, only, ever singles out the one least credible person to talk to, addresses that one person in a private audience, and then tells that person to go play a game of telephone with the rest of the planet? That seems to me that's never worked. And I wonder why God doesn't fix his routine. Why does God not send a nationwide message to everybody?
Right. Yeah, so a lot of religious people make these mistakes, and they try to invent. Even some of them, they add to it and try to control other people through their messages to their advantage.
Yeah. So my thought is that if God communicates so badly, God communicates so badly that there's only two explanations. Right. Either God is incompetent, or, and I think this is infinitely more likely, there is no God.
Yeah, or we are incompetent to understand him.
But God would have fixed that, wouldn't he? So we wouldn't have had the Tao Te Ching, the Avestas of Zarathustra, the Adi Granth of the Sikhs, and the Bhagavad Gita is just one chapter of the Mahabharata. We wouldn't have the Vedic scriptures, and we wouldn't have the Hebrew Bible and the Gospels, and we wouldn't have the Quran and all of these different holy books, all of which are full of shit. We would have only one compilation, and it wouldn't be a book to be misinterpreted by people. We would have direct communication with God, and it wouldn't be Krishna, it wouldn't be Ahura Mazda, it wouldn't be Allah, it wouldn't be Jesus, it would be the one God communicating with everybody. If he's fucking real, have him be real. If he's God the Father, have him be like a real father, not like a deadbeat dad who went out for cigarettes in 1973.
So again, I wouldn't quite think that all those religions are not serving the purpose of helping, helping God reach out to us. So basically, and all the
how is it not when we have? I noticed when I was 8 years old that we have Jews, Christians, and Muslims always at war with each other, each since their inception, over their combined belief in the same God of peace. Do you see a problem with that?
And it's because they're misunderstood.
Because God doesn't know how to get his message across consistently.
Yeah. So, for example, how, like, if you wanted to teach something to an ant, how would you do that?
If the ant has the capacity to understand something, and I need all of the ants to understand that thing, and I want to save all the ants. I love the ants. I love all the ants. I am not going to have a chosen race of ants and have them go commit genocide against every other group of ants that I created. And I'm certainly not going to punish those ants over what or whether they believed. Are you believing in the wrong ant god? I am the only true ant god, and I'm going to send my ants to go kill my chosen ants. I created all the ants, but I have chosen ants because I'm a racist dick god, and so I'm going to have my ants go kill all the other ants for believing in the wrong ant god.
Aron, listen, you're thinking way too literally about this. All you need to do is be like, well, I can magically appear as the, savior ant, and then I can lead everybody. And as my ant self, I can teach them what I need to teach them through my ant pheromones and however ants communicate in various ways. I can magically turn into a fucking smartass ant, and I can become Ant-Man, and I can teach the ants to do shit. Okay, like I push my little button, I turn into an ant, and then I can teach them exactly what I need to teach them. I mean, when you introduce magic into these kinds of situations like the Bible does, I mean, you literally just have to appeal to the magical aspect of reality that people think exists. I mean, why you're asking this kind of question, but it's like, well, I'll just magically turn into an ant that can teach other ants how to do like complex mathematics, and then that'll be it. When we can make shit up, then what's to stop us? Like, why are we letting like reality like interfere with our ant problems?
Yeah. So I get you. I mean, this can be too far-fetched, but at the same time, you can't say it's illogical. You know what I mean? So that is really the.
I mean, it's illogical in the sense that magic, as far as we can tell, does not exist. So appealing to magic makes it illogical. Other than that little bit of a road, that little bit of a bump in the road, I mean, yeah, sure. It's not illogical to appeal to magic as long as that's part of your worldview. But at the same time, like I said, we don't have evidence for magic. So if you appeal to magic, that means that you're not being logical, or that your argument's not logically sound.
Yeah, but sometimes, magic, what appears to you as magic is something that you might be ignorant about, you don't yet understand. For example, like
magic, once again, is the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Anything that defies the laws of physics. Anytime you use the word supernatural in a sentence,
that we understand, yeah.
Anytime you use the word supernatural in a sentence, you could replace that word with either the word magical or the word imaginary. And if you replace it with either of those words, you haven't significantly changed the validity of the sentence.
Yeah. So if for example, a two-dimensional thing is stranded in a square box, and the three-dimensional another being were to grab that item, being out of that encampment, would another person, another two-dimensional being looking at the whole process would think, when they disappear, would think that's magical, right? But for you, as a three-dimensional
I feel like we have. I feel like we have two different ideas of what is magical, because it seems like you're trying to explain magic as just like phenomena that we don't understand. And in the past, people have considered things to be magical when it's just phenomena that we don't understand. But that's not what the Bible or any religion that we have out there actually purports, because they're not purporting like, oh, we just don't understand this natural phenomena. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is that, oh, hey, look, this shit's magical as fuck, yo. And God isn't bound by the natural laws of reality, and he can just do whatever the fuck he wants to. Does God want to appear as a column of fire so that he can lead the Israelites through 40 years in the desert just because they pissed God off one day? Sure. Let's have God be a magical column of fire. I don't understand how that can be some kind of natural phenomena that we just don't understand, where it's like some column of fire that's leading the Israelites around the desert for 40 years. Like,
for the
I don't
same
understand.
reason, like, a two-dimensional being that is stranded in a square would consider it magical when it, is extracted from
I don't know why you're having trouble with this.
Being.
When somebody says that they're talking about an immaterial soul, what does immaterial mean? Magical. When they're talking about supernatural powers, what does supernatural mean? Magical. So when Moses throws down his staff and it turns into a snake, if Gandalf did exactly the same thing, you would call that magical. But for whatever reason, when Moses does the magic trick, you don't recognize it as magic. Why not? It's magic.
Right. So it's magic because we don't, as human beings, we cannot, do that.
Because it can never be explained by science. Not just that it hasn't been explained yet by science, but that it can never be explained by science. So if magic existed, if the supernatural were real, then there would be people like Spock or Gandalf or Hermione or Obi-Wan who would be able to demonstrate that these things exist, or that these powers can be used reliably. Then even if science can't explain it, science still has to admit that there's a there. There's a thing that's happening that we can't explain. But the sad thing is, all of the religions combined, all of the world's religions combined, can't show us that there is a supernatural at all.
Well, I believe science is going to struggle trying to explain, consciousness, for example.
Well, I've talked to a number of neuroscientists. They don't have any problem with it whatsoever.
Yeah, they think they understand. Well,
yeah, the people who specialize in neuroscience. Yeah.
Yeah, they think that there's an emergent property of complex systems. That's what they believe it is, but they're not sure yet. But that's
how are they not sure?
That's what they look.
I've talked to a half a dozen neuroscientists and 2 famous neurophilosophers, and not only are they sure, but they don't tell me that it's not. They don't say that it's just that there's no evidence that there's a soul. They say there is no fucking soul. We don't have souls, period. Not just there's no evidence for it. There's substantial evidence against it, enough to declare that there's no such thing as a soul. That's what I'm getting from neuroscientists. You're telling me that they don't know. The neuroscientists are telling me, oh, no, we know.
I don't think there's any neural scientist would tell you that they know for sure what consciousness.
I actually do know, a handful of them. Chris Thompson has been on my show a couple of times. He's a neuroscientist who actually did say, "Yeah, we know there's no such thing as a soul." I can think of 4 others that have told me the same thing. And then there's 2 neurophilosophers. Unfortunately, one of them recently died, but Patricia Churchland and Daniel Dennett both said the same thing. Let me be clear. Daniel Dennett did not say that we know for sure that there's no soul. He said there's no support for mind-body dualism. He said neither in philosophy nor in neuroscience. That's it. That's what he said. There's no support for it. Patricia Churchland.
I would
go ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry,
with you.
I was just
the preponderance of how a lot of the scientists think, but any honest scientist would tell you that they don't have a proof of that, but that's what they believe.
Except when they're honest, and it's not just that there's no evidence. Let me specify this. There is no evidence precisely where it would be if it was real. So, but it's worse than that. There is substantial evidence against it, so overwhelmingly against it that we can conclusively say now, it's not just that there's not even a possibility to consider, but that it just doesn't fucking exist. We have enough overwhelming evidence against it to conclude that it doesn't exist.
My question for you...
Right.
Well, Tommy, my question for you would be, why do you think a soul exists?
Why do you think a soul exists? Well, I believe that a soul could be. I'm a skeptic. I do not believe there is we don't have a sufficient evidence to believe one way or the other. But my current thinking is that a soul is a piece of a previous consciousness, and the Bible says, God breathed into soil, into a piece of dust, and that became man. So that could be a figurative explanation of how life came to be. And when we die, I believe it's conceivable that that soul goes back to another plane of existence, and it's not quite gone. It just it just departed this dust into which it has lived for a while. So that 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 explanation is not crazy to me. It's plausible, at least. It's not completely impossible, is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I just don't see any evidence that like a soul exists or this mind-body dualism exists, because it seems like our personalities, our consciousness are directly tied to our physical makeup. So much so that if you change the physical makeup of your brain, then it seems like your quote unquote soul changes, like your entire demeanor can change. So, it's kind of like, I don't see any reason to believe that unicorns ever existed. So therefore, I don't believe in unicorns. It's the same thing for a soul. I don't see any reason to believe that a soul exists, however possible it may seem. I don't see any evidence that it does exist, so why should I believe that it does exist?
Yeah. And then we don't even have a possibility, because in order to say whether something is possible, we have to have a precedent or a parallel or a verified phenomenon indicating that such possibility exists. And not only do we not have that, we have the contradiction of that. We have where everywhere where we could have had right here in this specific part of the brain for this specific reason, under these conditions, if a soul exists, then this should be the expected result. But no, physical changes, whether it's trauma or disease or chemicals or whatever, they change your personality, as John was just saying. So there is no immaterial aspect of the personality, the mind, the qualia, that is in any sense independent of the physical brain. You are entirely your body. There's no separating you from the meat machine that you are.
Right. Your soul does indeed need your physical body in order to express itself.
No, your soul does not exist. You are the physical body. There is no soul.
Yeah. For example, entanglement used to be a crazy concept, but science eventually came around to it, and they say it's possible for the same particle to be in two different places. I think the more we understand the quantum world better, I believe we would come to a better understanding of what a soul is, what consciousness is.
Well, I don't know where quantum anything has to do with a soul.
I suspect that, it has to do with entanglement. Like I said,
I didn't get deep into quantum. I didn't get deep into quantum mechanics, but I see in college. I mean, but what I did learn about, no relationship at all between the quantum model and the soul. Nothing.
Yeah, there is. Well, at least at the physical level, there are physicists who are trying.
And there's no other level.
Consciousness using quantum physics.
Yeah, there's the one and only level, the physical level, and then there's the not any other levels.
Yeah, what we don't have enough evidence to say that, is what I'm saying.
We don't have any evidence
in science,
at all.
By the way. I believe
support
in science,
that there's a soul, but we do have profound evidence against a soul.
Science does not have an evidence for or against the soul.
We have evidence against the soul.
Yeah, we do have. And
we do have evidence against the soul. No, none for it.
Second law of thermodynamics.
We don't even have a possibility to consider, but we have a profound amount of evidence against it.
The law of thermodynamics is against the emergent, consciousness idea.
No, it's not.
Because
it's not even related to it.
No,
not in any case, not in any sense.
How so?
The laws of thermodynamics have no relationship to the soul. Quantum mechanics, no relation to the soul at all. We're talking about thermodynamics. Nothing to fucking do with the immaterial, supernatural, magical, mystical ghost you.
Yeah, so our bodies, the cells in our body, they kind of coordinate and they communicate between themselves.
Our bodies are ourselves. You are your body. You cannot be extracted from your body to be held separate from your body. You cannot leave your body, cannot be put into somebody else's body. None of this is possible because we know that every aspect of what makes you you is entirely the physical synapses and so forth in the mind and in the meat machine that is you.
Well, for example, your memory is arguably external to you. Like if you
it isn't.
A video of
it's entirely chemical and entirely internal to you.
Yeah, so I guess we need to understand exactly what a soul is. For me, a soul is because if I have information about you, and if I have it stored in or another person, and have it stored in a disk drive or something, I can say that I have something about that person, and if that person dies, that person is not completely gone, right?
Yeah. If we're talking about computers, if we're talking about computer data, then you've got the program, you've got the data that you put on that computer that can be saved. We can't do that with any aspect of your mind so far. There are certain things that may be recordable, but that's not you. You understand what I'm saying? There's things you can say. There's things you can think. We may be able to record thoughts at some point, but we still can't copy you, download you out of you, and install you into me or anybody else. We can't transmit you through the ether because you are the physical manifestation of all the synaptic connections in your brain and your physical body, the rest of it.
Doesn't that sound a bit dirty? Like, I want to be inside you. I'm just saying, like, this has a lot of weird weird places that you could go to with it. But even if you had like basic information of me down, like, how do you like compare that to having a soul? Like even if you were to perfectly record all of my thoughts onto a hard drive, how does that constitute my soul? Souls are magical.
So I'm just right. So I was just making an analogy because there's nothing like this in my experience that I could use to explain it by, right? So it's similar to that. It's something that animates you, something that makes your body work together. At least that's how I understand a soul to be. And
okay, so just like electricity.
So just us. Right,
like energy, not electricity, like but energy in general.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly. I don't see how like energy. I feel like you're obvious. So hold on. I feel like hold on. Wait a second. I feel like you're obfuscating this whole idea of a soul down to the point where you're just saying a soul is energy, and at that point, a soul is indistinguishable from any kind of energy that exists in the universe. And what good is that? Like, are we really making a distinction here?
No, it's not. I would think it's more complex than energy. But I'm just using it as a metaphor to explain what a soul might be like.
Okay, I don't think we're going to get any further than this. You have an inexplicable need to believe that you are not the body that you are. That maybe that when your body dies, that some supernatural essence of self will continue on in some other form. That's what every religion teaches. There's no truth to it, but that doesn't matter. There's no truth to any religion.
Yeah, it's not like I have a need for it. I just sometimes I'm swayed in that direction. Some at other times I tend to be more of an atheist, an agnostic. It just comes out of the fact that we don't really have a lot of good evidence.
We have a lot of good evidence against the soul.
And just to add to that, I feel like
one evidence against the soul.
I already listed that about an hour ago.
And destroyed.
I already listed the good evidence against the soul a while back.
Right. And also, I feel like you're a little focused in the wrong area here, because it seems like you're saying, well, because there's not any evidence that compels me to not believe in a soul, that means that a soul is more likely to exist. I don't know if maybe I'm interpreting you correctly, but it just kind of seems like what you're saying is that unless there is some concrete evidence that I'll accept that a soul does not exist, then I'm just going to believe in a soul. Is that an accurate steelman of your position?
So I'm just I'm trying to make sense of it, sense of things. So sometimes when I think of like why people die, why injustices happen, I think to myself that, for example, to die is not really a big deal. maybe you're going to a better place, a better experience.
Except that you can't, because we don't have souls to go anywhere.
Yeah. So, and so that's why I think, if you had a soul, and going through, even when God asks you to, for example, in the Bible, that God tells the Israelites to kill the Amalekites, and sometimes I think to myself, why would God do that? And I try to rationalize that. So, and I say, maybe God is, taking the Amalekites to a better place. He's not, really
or
hurting them. At
maybe
the end of the
God
day.
is imaginary, like the soul.
That could also be possible.
Yeah, the God and
soul.
I do not rule that out either. Yeah.
Okay, but I guess where my mind is at,
wrong about everything.
Yeah, where my mind is kind of focused.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just going to say that where my mind is focused is that, like, I need compelling evidence to believe in something, but it seems like you're completely the opposite here. Is that, unless, you have concrete evidence to sway you away from something, you're going to believe in that something. And I feel like that's just a bit of a 180 from how you should be operating.
Yeah, it's also quite the direct opposite of skeptic. So earlier you said you were a skeptic, and no, you are nothing close to. You're directly opposite from. I would not employ that word ever again to describe yourself, sir. You are not a skeptic.
Yeah, I'm a skeptic in the sense that I do not take the Bible or the Quran or any other religion literally.
Yeah, but you're not a skeptic, because skepticism isn't just about a certain thing. Skepticism is about the way that you think. Do you, whether you want to avoid being fooled into believing things that are not evidently true. So you will not believe unless the evidence is so overwhelming that it compels you to accept it. That where you would realize that it would be perverse for me to question this at this point, because the evidence is so overwhelmingly in favor of this. And you would accept it only tentatively even then. But that's not your position, because not only do you have no evidence to support a soul, you have substantial evidence against a soul, and you're going to insist on believing anyway. So you are the reverse of a skeptic. You are being credulous. You are not a skeptic in any sense.
Yeah, that could be. But I do know that I don't take, any religion literally. I just approach it from the point of view of, if there were a God, we would be able to know him. And my answer is we won't, unless, God tried to reach out to us and try to...
Yeah. If God was real and really wanted a relationship with us, we'd have a relationship with him. Done.
Right.
We wouldn't have thousands of different religions. There'd only be one.
Yeah. So
I mean, I would say that a skeptic. I would say that a skeptic is open to the possibility of these things, but won't accept them as plausible until they're given sufficient enough evidence to deem them to be plausible. But I feel like, and maybe you can correct me, it feels like you're saying that it's plausible for God to exist, and that it's plausible for a soul to exist, and all this other things, and that's just simply not how skepticism works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I picked the wrong word. Maybe an agnostic would be a good one for me.
I mean, as long as you don't know whether or not like a soul exists or anything like that, and you're sort of in this pure agnostic position of you just don't know what you believe, maybe that could be an accurate description or a label for your position. But I feel like a lot of times religious people make it a very binary choice. You either believe or you don't. And so, it's kind of a situation where you believe or you don't. If you don't believe, then you're not a theist. Agnostic is more about what you know to be true, whereas theism and atheism is about what you believe to be true. So, I mean, if you don't believe in those things wholeheartedly, then you just simply don't believe in them. And
yeah, and,
I mean,
and Thomas
it's kind
Huxley,
of
when Thomas Huxley invented the word agnostic, he wanted to caution people against professing knowledge that they didn't actually have, which is my biggest problem with religion, in fact. Where they assert baseless speculation as if it's a matter of fact. That irritates the fuck out of me. If you don't know, you shouldn't pretend as if you know.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm just trying to imagine a possibility where God would be real, and
yeah.
other
Do
times,
we have a precedent or
also
parallel or verified phenomenon indicating that possibility exists?
Yeah, the fact that we ask about him, we think of him. I think that is one
but
good
that
example.
doesn't imply
just like
a possibility of what you're talking about.
You know what's possible, Tommy? It's possible. It's possible that Godzilla walked around Jerusalem with a big dick hanging out, but that doesn't mean that it's plausible. See right there on the screen, evidence of Godzilla. He doesn't have his giant schlong out for everybody to see, but I'm just saying that that's a possibility. Anything's possible, right? So unless you have a good reason to think that it's plausible.
Yeah, I don't agree that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just saying from his point of view, he's saying anything's possible. And so if you were, I'm just trying to do a reductio ad absurdum here. If anything's possible,
right.
Big Dick Godzilla in Jerusalem, that's possible, I mean, I feel like
right.
In order for it to be possible, you need good reasons to think that it's possible. And for it to be plausible, you need actual evidence in order to assert that. So until, you can actually assert, some reasons or some justification for the possibility of it, I really don't even think that we can, it's a non-starter for me, I guess. Discussing the possibility of a soul.
Yes. I agree with you. I mean, it can be a futile exercise. I don't want to take too much of your time, guys.
Okay.
But
right.
As atheists, I believe you guys, should think of those things. The possibility that God could be real. You should only think that God is not real after you've exhausted all evidence,
and then realize that it was not a possibility. Yeah, I've examined the God question every possible way and have concluded that it is not a possibility to consider. God is not even possible.
But I showed you just one example that of potential possibility.
Right.
I don't think you can, but you're welcome to try quickly.
I mean, again, as I said, as far as your possibility goes, I've shown you the possibility of Godzilla. So maybe you should turn from your sinful ways and worship Godzilla.
Maybe that's the way to go.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Well, thank you, caller.
I don't think God. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Good night. Thank you so much. All right, we've got two atheists on here.
Yeah, I hope that we can. I think that we could probably power through at least Rogue Show's question real quick. You're going to be the authority on this one.
Okay, so Rogue Show, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. What's up?
All right, so what did you want to talk about?
So, a simple question. You spoke extensively on how dinosaurs are birds.
Well, birds are dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah. So how the fuck did dinosaurs get so small? I'm wondering.
Well, they started out small. There's not that many of them that got really, really big. And with birds, the thing about dinosaurs is that a lot of them have pneumatic skeletons and air sacs throughout their skeletons. So they had an avian respiration system, which made them vastly more energetic than mammals. So that at the same size, pound for pound, dinosaurs are quicker, faster, and more durable than mammals. They would be able to best us at everything. So that's how it is that some dinosaurs managed to reach absolutely magnificent sizes. And that's also how some of them managed to achieve flight. But flight requires a smaller size. Now, since not everything tries to be bigger, it can work out to the advantage for some animals to be larger, and there are some circumstances under which some animals will be larger. But there are dromaeosaurs like Utah raptor and such that, not all of it, like if you look at the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, what Jurassic Park presents as velociraptors, those are actually Utah raptors or Deinonychus. Those would be too big to fly with their build, at least the size that they're given in the movie. So you need the weight to be low enough that it has some aerodynamics to it, so that there's a possibility of lift overcoming the body weight. And we know that several dinosaurs were quite small. Any of them could be.
Hey, Aron, isn't there something to be said about the oxygen content, like 65 million years ago? Because I know that there were insects that were rather large compared to what they are now, but that was because the oxygen content of the atmosphere was so much higher. It was easier for them to get enough oxygen for them to survive. Does that play a factor?
Well, when you go into the Carboniferous period, there was this is when oxygen was really high in the Carboniferous, and you do have things like Meganeura, which was a bunch of griffin flies, which are now extinct. But a bunch of these griffin flies had reached magnificent sizes, including like a 2-foot wingspan. And then you have Arthropleura, which was a centipede-like animal that was like 6 or 7 feet long. But for the most part, most of these arthropods were not any bigger than what we have today. As a matter of fact, you would think that there would be giant spiders back then. And if you watch the Walking with Dinosaurs show, you would probably be, or Walking with Monsters series, then you would think that there was a giant spider. However, the show fucked that up. That was not a giant spider. That was actually a Eurypterid. They just didn't have the full fossil of it. They did have cockroaches the size of the palm of your hand, but they didn't have things like like the 1950s movie monster drive-in kind of things. So the apart from Meganeura and Arthropleura, there weren't any really gigantic bugs, unless you want to talk about some of the scorpions. There were big ass scorpions, and there were the Eurypterids, which are very closely related to scorpions. But as far as dinosaurs, as I said, there was some advantage to be had in being a sauropod or a carnosaur and being ridiculously big. But for a lot of them, they just weren't. They didn't have that need to be big to compete that way. And so, like ankylosaurs, for example, most of them would fit into most rooms in your house. You might have some trick getting them through the front door, but it'll fit in the house.
Yeah. So what would this what would determine size as far as as far as like as far as like taxonomy.
Well, natural selection is going to work with what works for the animal, and so it, like for example, dogs. You know that the bigger the dog, the shorter the lifespan. So there's lots of, if you want to make a bigger dog, then there's lots of little adjustments that have to be made to make that dog capable of enduring at that increased size. Sauropods had the advantage in that they were big enough that when you get big enough, then you are sort of outside of the range of predators to eat you. So that's just something that they were lucky enough to buy a dice roll to be able to do. But not everything went that way. The feathered dinosaurs, when you get into a big enough size, then there's issues with heat displacement as well. That's why the American Tyrannosaurus Rex did not have feathers like the Asian Eutyrannus did. So the Asian Tyrannosaurus was feathered, but the American one was not. It's kind of like looking at a Columbian mammoth and comparing it to a woolly mammoth.
All right. Thank you. Oh, thank you for your input. And I guess before I go, may I do a Trump impression real quick?
A Trump impression?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Project 2035 is going to be the greatest thing. Pregnant women mortality will be at the highest rate. Let me tell you.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, we got one last call, and we're toward the end of the show, so we're going to go ahead and take that call. Thank you very much, Rogue Show. I suspect we'll talk to you on a later call. Thank you. All right, and finally, Michaela. Let me see if I can pull up Michaela. Michaela, can you hear us?
I can.
All right, so what would you like to talk about?
Yeah, I guess today my goal is really to I was like I'm an atheist. I became an atheist like last December. And
so recent.
Yeah, very
yeah.
Oh yeah, there was basically a lot of like progressive Christian ideas that kept me in the faith, and I guess that's my goal today is to kind of like really deconstruct that idea. So basically, there's this like very left wing pastor who lives in Atlanta, and he has a whole sermon about holding Jesus accountable, and I find it very interesting. So the whole gist of it is basically,
just the idea of a left-wing pastor in Atlanta is already interesting.
Yeah. But the whole gist of his sermon about holding Jesus accountable is that he brings up Matthew 15:26-28. And that's basically the whole story of like, Jesus denying to heal this Canaanite woman, calling her a dog. And then she tells him that, well, a dog can still eat the crumbs from their master's tables, right? And what this pastor tells us is that when she told that to Jesus, she was basically holding Jesus accountable. And the moral of the story is that if we can not only are we allowed to hold Jesus accountable, but we're allowed to hold other people, in his words, like other Christians accountable, right? And for me, that almost kept me in the faith because, like, hey, a lot of these bad things happen in the Bible. Maybe we're allowed to hold God accountable. But I guess I'm just curious as to like, what's your opinion on that interpretation?
The notion of holding Jesus accountable, I love that. A friend of mine told me once upon a time years ago that she was a Christian and she's just going to ignore all of the Bible. She's only going to look at the red letter stuff. She's only going to look at the stuff that Jesus said. And I can't remember whether it was Matthew 6 or Matthew 10. I think it was Matthew 10, where Jesus described himself as a cult leader and said that he hasn't come here to bring peace. He's come here to divide parents from their children and husbands from the wives. And he says, you cannot be my disciple unless you hate your father and your mother and your sister and your brother and your wife and even your own life. And so that's what he wants, is to separate families, that belief in him matters more than your familial relationships. And that, I think, is the most succinct definition of a cult. Yeah, a cult is a religious organization generally considered to be smaller than the mainstream. But it's when a cult, the big issue that people have with cults is that cults try to divide families so that their devotees end up walking away from their familial relationships. And that's what Jesus was demanding. That I didn't bring peace, but a sword. So he was contradicting his previous messages of peace and so forth, because he was essentially a madman. We're talking about a first century faith healer, a self-styled exorcist, the same sort of scam that we still have running today. And this is a guy that thought that diseases were caused by demons. Yeah.
Well, and I typically take like holding Jesus accountable a little bit further, in that the teaching in Christianity is that Jesus, is akin to God, and that God or Jesus is the same past, present, and future. And so that makes Jesus culpable for the atrocities that God committed in the Old Testament. In one way or another, whether you want to consider Jesus to be part of the Trinity, or as John would have Jesus in the in the very first part of the Gospel of John as a pre-existent being that existed alongside God at the very beginning. Jesus, I feel like, would still be culpable for all of the atrocities committed in the Old Testament. So I think that, focusing on the New Testament and the things that Jesus did there is important. But I also think that acknowledging that, Jesus being akin to God, related to God in some kind of way, or at least some kind of authority figure in Christianity, right alongside God, should be held accountable for the horrible things that God, committed in the Old Testament. And so I think that also needs to be taken into consideration when you're talking about holding Jesus accountable.
Oh, absolutely. And also there's this other part of this story where, because when it comes to the conservative interpretation of this story, it's a lot easier to kind of like call bullshit on it, because they're basically saying oh, Jesus, he was just trying to test our faith. This woman clearly knew Jesus had the ability to heal people, so why would he bother trying to test her faith? And then you have the dog part, which is from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a slur towards Canaanite people, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he did call the woman, or he at least alluded that the woman was akin to a dog, canine.
So Jesus was racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been
Which tracks.
Yeah. Yeah. Because at least for me, because at least I guess the area I grew up in, because the civil rights movement was using. I don't want to go too deep into that, but I guess the area I grew up around, I guess there's a lot of people who engage in liberation theology, which is even though the Bible explicitly condones slavery, people kind of reinterpret it to be against slavery, and I guess that kind of passed down to the area that I live in today, because when it comes to these intersections of how we talk about race in relation to the Bible, John, you made a very good point a few shows ago. We were talking about how
but not since. You've been rubbish since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Shit.
about interracial marriage, about in the Bible or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's been like a huge piece of like my deconstruction journey. Is unlearning like racism, how it's been condoned by Christianity, and especially when it comes to like these other cults. And like I guess some of these kind of make sense. I mean, not make sense to me, but like it makes sense as to why people believe certain things they do. Because like, I know the Black Nation of Islam. I find them interesting because they believe that there was this ancient black man who created all white people as a different race, which is wild. So yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that Jesus, as far as like holding Jesus accountable and how that relates to more progressive Christians out there, I think that that acknowledging how racist the Bible was in the Old Testament and how Jesus is connected to the Old Testament, I think that's a pretty powerful connection to make there. And yeah, like you were saying with the interracial marriage, there's several verses, like the Numbers 31 situation with the Midianites that was, about race mixing, which you have to kind of shift your idea of what races were, because at that point in time, races were just groups of people. And so groups of people had different religions associated with each group of people. And so when they're talking about the different groups of people out there, they're talking about different races. And so when God gets mad at the Israelites for mixing with another people group, he's mad about race mixing. And that is where a lot of like pastors go, even in modern times. I know on my YouTube channel, I actually got banned off of YouTube for a little bit because I posted up a sermon that a guy in Tennessee gave where he was using these verses in order to say that interracial marriage was like ungodly, and he was like vehemently arguing against it. And so like people in the modern times are using these verses in order to preach against interracial marriage. And we have the Supreme Court that mentioned reversing the decision on interracial marriage. And so this is a very pertinent topic to our current socio-political environment, and I think that it's just very important to mention.
Absolutely. That was a really good point. I couldn't have put it better myself. So I guess right before I get out of here,
it disturbs me that the marriage that I have now, when I was a little boy, the marriage I have now was illegal. I wish that stuff like that was far past my lifetime. I wish that it wasn't in my lifetime that we were still having this problem. But as John just mentioned, yeah, they want to repeal it. They want to change mixed marriages as if race is a thing anymore, which it really isn't. Even Darwin said so. And then they also, but it's worse than that. They want to reinstate slavery to be used specifically as an application of of prison terms or something like that. But in one way or another, they want to reinstate slavery, and they verbally said on video that they want to repeal women's right to vote. So the 19th Amendment goes to. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Like this country has a lot of issues. And I guess for me, when it comes to like, creationists, there's a piece of me that like really, I've been really inspired by a lot of the people on this show to like really go forth and like challenge a lot of these things. Because for me, like, I kind of have like a background being associated with like, Hebrew Israelite people. And Aron, I understand you had a interaction with them before. Is that true, or?
Interaction with who?
The Hebrew Israelites.
Oh yeah, a couple times. I've run into them a couple of times. And the better encounter, I think, was when I was alone. I didn't have anybody to back me up. They seem to depend entirely on how intimidating they are. And so when I walked up to them alone without anybody to back me, they got frustrated with me shooting down their argument and they all turned their backs to me and closed ranks so that they could argue in the other direction while I'm behind them facing their backs.
That sounds like a tactic they have. And what were they saying about the sun?
Yeah, they were saying that science doesn't know anything because the sun is on fire and you need oxygen for fire. So how is the sun on fire? See, it proves that nobody knows or that either there's oxygen in space or science doesn't know what the fuck. And I said, well, you all have cell phones. Pull out your cell phones and look up the fourth state of matter. Look up plasma. It's not a fire. It's a nuclear thing. It's plasma, the fourth state of matter. They would not listen. They didn't want to know. They want to believe.
Yeah, that's exactly who and what they are. These are just people who have an identity crisis. Because like our culture got stripped away from us and it was like, hey, read this Bible. And I guess they interpret the Bible as like, well, I guess our biggest weapon against this white supremacist patriarchy is to argue that, hey, this Bible, the book that's the most important book in the Western world is actually about us. And we're gonna say that it's about us. And we don't care about the fact. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize that Aron had left. We just ordered food. It's downstairs, so I was looking at that. But yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention because I figured you were talking to Aron. But did okay? Were we able to answer your question though about like challenging the progressive Christian idea about holding Jesus accountable?
Oh, absolutely. Both of you answered it very well. I appreciate you guys having me on. And I look forward to more shows as well.
No, yeah, and I hope that you can call in again in the future because I mean I love interacting with all of y'all, on here. So always like having these kinds of conversations.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. I'll see you later there, Michaela, and I hope that you have an awesome night. And talk to you in the future.
Absolutely. You too. Bye bye.
All right, bye. Alrighty, well, that's going to be it for the calls tonight, but I think that we probably have some super chats to go through, which I know Aron is dealing with some pet issues, it sounds like, but I don't know if we can. Yeah, there we go. All right. Let's see. $5 from William Matz, who says, read my next super chat together, please. I don't know if we're going to need to wait for that. Let's see. At the same time now, beer sucks. Sorry, William, that we weren't able to do that together. Aron's a bit indisposed right now, but I actually like beer on occasion. I'm more of a whiskey person, so like I've got whiskey downstairs, but I'm probably not going to drink anymore tonight. But whiskey is probably my preferred like alcohol as far as drinking that. Anyways, Zachary Herring says for $20, just wanted to thank you, Aron, for everything you do. You gave me the courage to talk to my dad about why he's a Catholic. I was disappointed with his response. Lol. Please use this money to switch from beer to whiskey. Hey, beer to whiskey. You know, I don't like I wasn't drinking whiskey tonight, but that's why I had the other IPA. Because it had a higher alcohol content, and I was just able to kind of sip on that for the longest time. And then $5 from William Matz again, who says, consensually stroke that like button, or else the Raven 200 is gonna pile drive you, brother. wonder if Aron's going to get mad that I'm taking all of the super chats. Oh, there he is.
Sorry, we had a dog fight.
Yeah, it sounded like it. Well, we got done with the caller, and then now we're on to
Did I forget to hit
super
mute
chat
on my
thing.
mic? Stop.
No.
I hope I hit mute on the mic because that was bad. Stop. Okay. All right, $5 from the Raven 200. Make sure to follow Aron and John and William Matz, and I will double choke slam through a table and consensually spank the like button hard.
We had another person earlier. We had another person earlier say that beer sucks, and I had to defend beer there for a second. Yeah. At the same time now, beer sucks.
We've had enough of this. Quiet.
All right, $10 from RC Dasheen. Today's my 36th birthday. Happy birthday!
We're not doing this. Shh.
Normally I sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. I won't put y'all through that mess. Today's my 36th birthday, but that's not stopping me from giving the line a gift, $10 and a message from Jordan Peterson. The presupposition influence is a jumble of dominance hierarchies.
Stop. Bowie, stop. Okay, sorry. Knock it off. Hey. Stop. Shh. You're fine. Knock it off. $5 from Corey Springer. Thank you so much.
$9.99 from Fancy Wire. Oh, did you want to read this, Art?
Yeah, I'll read that one. $9.99 from Fancy Wire. Babel's story says nothing about pride or malice. Genesis 11:6 that the Lord said, if as one people speaking the same language they have begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. That was the thing that I had, the issue that I had. God was upset that we could do stuff. Oh, look, when they work together, they can accomplish anything. Let me fuck that up.
Oh, $5 from William Matz. It just says boobies.
$5 from the Raven 200. Support the line. Otherwise, J Mike might hit you with an Uso splash through the announce table. I'm feeling Usi today, y'all. I don't get these video game references. I can guess that that's what it is, but
I think it's a wrestling move. Raven 200 normally likes to call out wrestling moves. I don't know the wrestling moves either. $20 from Bike.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Biker Nurse Ratchet.
I'm already wrestling.
It says, I was just at a funeral for a friend where the pastor said, quote, and for all of you who don't believe in Jesus, know that Jesus believes in you. There is nothing more condescending than trying to recruit at a fucking funeral. I agree. That's totally not the place to take comfort.
Yeah. $5 from William Matz. It's bullshitiosa. I don't get it.
That was back when I did the one. And I was like bullshitiosa with the magical shit.
What?
$5 from William Matz, who says last one just for Kalasia 789. Actually, for all the mods. Also, shout out for Feo Halo for what she does in the comments. Feo normally puts timestamps in the comments so that people can get to the calls easily.
Stop. $10 from Nikki.
Damn it, dog! Stop.
$10 from Nikki D. I really appreciate the show today. It made my Monday so much better.
Well, I'm glad that we could be a part of your awesome day there, Nikki.
Okay. And $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Mike, I apologize. I went to public school. Maybe you should have gone to more. That's the third or fourth call from him, all like that.
Damn. He's predictable. $20 from Christopher Martin, who says, please read this one now. Brittany, we all love you. Really so glad you were able to reach out. I know that we read that during the call, so that was awesome.
Yeah. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. I'd rather know the ugly truth rather than believe a beautiful lie. Brittany, this is the single biggest thing that will guide you through the dark.
It's good advice.
That was a heartbreaking call.
Yeah, it was. $9.99 from Ian Colson, who says, you are not a bother at all, Brittany. We're all happy to have you on here and happy that you can hopefully take something good from this. Yeah, I hope so. It sounded like Brittany had some really reassuring messages her way, and I think that she's going to be better off for it.
$10 from Biker Nurse Ratchet. Biker Nurse Ratchet. Oh, my word. Brittany, I wish I would have asked the same questions you're asking when I was your age. You don't deserve anything bad like that, bad that happened to you, no matter what the Bible said.
100% agree. $5 from Monkey at... Sorry. Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead. $5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Brittany, your call was the most important call of the show. You survived horror, and you're on the other side. You can heal. You're not alone.
$10 from President Starscream. Here's a question for Aron. As far as I can tell, the answer is a matter of debate. So, are mammals reptiles?
No. Reptiles are a subset of diapsids. Mammals are synapsids.
No debate, it seems. $4.99. Or wait, no, I'm sorry. I think this is your turn.
Okay, $4.99 from Homespun Covers. What is the symbol on the line supposed to be under what appears to be the number buttons on a phone?
Well, I think the icon for the line is just a phone, like it's a phone handset. So I'm not exactly sure what icon they could mean other than the handset, which is normally associated with the phone. $10 from Adam. Sorry. Hail, childless catfolk. They scare JD Vance, so it's okay.
$5 from Josephus Zeno. Aron, you're a brilliant man. I look forward to some intelligent discourse in the future. Thank you very much.
All right, that seems to be it for tonight. It is great.
Yeah, I was happier with this show. I was happier with this show than I have been in several others because it's hard to get theists to call in, and I was delighted that we had a few of them tonight.
Yeah, so, and I mean the few that we had were particularly ridiculous, I feel.
Well, we had one or two that I think were in the realm of reason. You know, they were sincere inquirers, and I always appreciate that. All right,
definitely.
Where can everybody find you,
Mr. Gleason? Everybody can find me here on YouTube at Godless Engineer, or any of the other social medias as just Godless Engineer, except for Facebook. I'm Godless Engineering on Facebook, but everywhere else I'm just Godless Engineer. So just, find me on there.
Okay. And you find me at patreon.com/ARONRA. Donate. Thank you much. Good night. I'll do my Trump dance.